Hello, my fellow randoms. Long time no see. My name, if you don't know me by now, is Kevin Duffy, and welcome to this, our 43rd episode of What's Your Random Podcast, where I discover and celebrate independent and individual creativity from the inception of an idea to the process and the practicalities of bringing that idea to life. Things have been busy here. 2022 is a new year, and we're already coming up on finishing 3 months, if you believe it or not. I hope it is treating you well so far, and it's been a busy one for me here at What's Your Random Podcast with the old day job as well as other creative endeavors. Things are looking good so far in 2022. I hope the same can be said for yourselves. Today I am welcoming back a guest for our 43rd episode. Alec Sorbello joined me in August of 2021 to talk about Gyro Universe, or the Gyro Universe that he was kickstarting at that time. And lo and behold, there is another Kickstarter right now for a second installation. And Alec came back to talk about that and a lot more. So I hope you pause this episode with every intention of coming back. Go to Kickstarter. His Kickstarter is live through the beginning of April 2022. So if you are hearing this and it's March 2022 or up until I think April 7th, 2022, go to Kickstarter and check out Alex's project, the Gyro Universe, and then come back here and join us for a discussion to learn more about his project and his creative process. Without further ado, without further ado, to do? Well, I got a lot of to-dos, but without further ado, enjoy this and enjoy the random.
It's tough when you got you're trying to show possession with Alec. It's tough. Yeah.
What happened to your finger, and how many inches below the knuckle were you?
I almost lost it. I almost sliced it right off. I'm a bartender, and I wasn't cutting limes or doing anything like that. It was dark. There's something next to me, and it was two Gibraltar glasses, like mixed drink glasses. The one with they're like octagons or something. I think they were dirty, and I think they were stacked on top of each other.
30 of them?
No, dirty. I'm sorry. I think they were stacked on top of each other, like if they were like in the cup, like that. And I'm typing in stuff on a POS system. They're to my left, and they're on top of a cooler. And I hit it with my elbow, and I didn't even know what I hit. Like, it's dark. It's Saturday night. It's busy. I'm not paying attention. And I knocked something off it. So I went to go catch it. And I think my pinky went into the two glasses, like where they were like stacked, because they opened. And then after that, I slammed into the cooler, and which tells me I was moving way faster than I ever thought I could to break these glasses.
I was also going to say, it sounds like the force of your powerful pinky just totally created a hole in the glass, which is just a testimony to the power of a pinky.
Yeah, I thought working out was a good idea, and look where it got me. But anyway, I smashed it, and it was one of those pains where like immediately you hurt yourself. Like, as I've hurt myself bad before, broken bones, torn stuff, like you name it. And I got that pain. I was like, oof. And I went right off the bar, and I'm gushing blood. Like, I just put it I had a rag, also dirty rag. So I got a tetanus shot that night. We're good. I'm on antibiotics. We're fine. But I went out back, and I'm gushing blood, like more blood than I couldn't believe. The rag was red immediately. If you're not into blood, this is not the site for you. And I go to wash it off.
Just mute the conversation, because I think I want to stay on this for at least a minute before I introduce Alec.
Fair enough. But I get out back and see my boss. He's like, yo, dude, I need your help real quick. He's like, what's up? I was like, I think I sliced my pinky pretty good. I was like, I don't know. It might just be a gusher, but it's pretty good. It's deep. And so he's like, okay. And I'm like, it was a little sore, it hurt. And so I rinsed it off. It definitely stung to rinse it off. And I like, it was in the rag before that. And we rinsed it off and I'm like, oh, it's not a gusher. Like I cut my pinky, like basically the entire of the diameter of my pinky I cut.
And around the bone.
Oh yeah. So
Oof.
bad. And so like we wrap it up with gauze, like nobody was really freaking out. My boss was like, dude, you need to go. Like, let me get my car. I was like, dude, I'm fine. I went back on the bar and said bye to people because like I had a bunch of regulars there. So I was like, all right, guys, I might lose my pinky. I gotta go. But I wrapped it up as tight as I could. I'm in the emergency room. I'm thinking I'm gonna lose my pinky because first of all, I had so much gauze, like this times a million around like the two fingers, and it was red. And I couldn't feel my pinky like at all. Like it was just numb, completely numb. And I get in the emergency room, realize I'm not going to lose it when we open it up and start stitching it, which was good. But I I cut the tendon and maybe
man,
like I can feel it now. Like, and the good thing is like when you push it, like it goes white and then it goes red again, which means I have circulation. So it's like sweet. I can't move it at all. Like I literally. He's like, can you move your pinky? I was like, no. Like, this is the ER doctor. And he's like, just try. I could move it like at the bottom knuckle, not the top. I guess some people have 2 tendons in their pinky. Some people have 1. That's what he said. And I can move it. He's like, just try again. Let's see if you can move it. This isn't the worst thing I've seen. Snap my tendon right there.
Thanks, Doc.
Yeah, well, I talked to some other doctors that are friends of mine. They're like, well, it was going to go anyway. If it was that bad, like you were gonna have didn't matter. And I said, I guess that makes me feel better. But it's just a pinky, it's not so bad. It sucks that what sucks is I had to get off the bar. Like it was a great night. We were super busy, so I missed out on that money. It's school vacation week, so it's like the restaurant was gonna be busier this week, and next week's another school vacation week for New Hampshire. So it just stinks that I just can't work really. That's the bummer. And I also had to push the campaign back at least 2 weeks for the Kickstarter. So March 8th is for issue 3 Kickstarter. It was supposed to have happened 3 days ago on the 22nd, or 2 days ago on the 22nd. I was supposed to launch, but there's a lot of typing involved in when you're doing Kickstarters.
Yeah.
And so
you're not an indexer. You're not like.
I mean, even that would be something. I'd probably just have to go with one hand. Just because what really sucks now
is it your dominant hand that you cut?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course, it's my dominant
hand. I type with one hand for whatever reason.
Only one?
Yeah, man. I'm actually kind of quick typing, but I bit
I hope
shy
so.
to admit that I type with one hand, and it's just like,
So
I'm like,
what are you doing?
Flowing all over the keyboard.
What are you doing with the other hand?
Scratching my butt. I
figured it was something like that.
Yeah, itching my nose, playing with my hair. I don't know, maybe picking a booger here and there.
Yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do. That's funny.
Yeah, I don't know. Balancing myself from
one hand is something. I feel like I wouldn't be super efficient doing it one hand. I was doing it like earlier this week when I was like doing my other stuff just for Instagram, and like at least that's my thumbs. Like I've resorted to doing more of my stuff on my phone because it's just easier.
Yeah.
But I would rather just be at least like 75%. Even 50 would be good. Like for the Kickstarter before I started. It's definitely a bummer to have to delay it, but if I'm not going to be locked in, more of it, it's not really typing. It's just like Friday, like tomorrow. I mean, I'm having surgery tomorrow. No way I'm doing anything for the Kickstarter if it's going to be on then. And then if I'm drugged up from whatever, just can't move the next day or two, I'm not trying to waste 3 of the first days of the first week of my campaign. I just can't do that.
Yeah. Well,
so I push back
executive decision, right?
Business decision. Yeah. You got to make some business decisions every now and then. Yeah.
Well, introducing Alec Sorbello. Welcome back for your second appearance here. What's Your Random Podcast? I'm losing count as I have become a little bit less frequent this year, as planned, by the way. But Yeah, I think you're 40. I want to say 44, but maybe 45. But yeah, why don't you just remind everybody who you are and what your project is before we talk more about fingers and
whatever else. Aliens. Hopefully a little bit of aliens going there. But butt scratching, of course, we got to keep that one. But my name's Al. I'm the writer and creator of the Gyro Universe, which is just basically, an existential adventure to tell all the necessary perspectives of an alien apocalypse. When I first got into it, I always wanted to write an alien story because I just felt like there's so much when you see alien apocalypse stories that you just don't get. Like you get the invasion, and then they kill a few aliens, and then it's like over, and maybe the day's saved, or the aliens die for whatever reason. But you never know what's happening on the aliens' planet that makes them want to invade, like before or after the invasion, on what's happening. You never really. Sometimes you see the aliens' perspective when they're on Earth, but it's more in like a campier, like ET style thing, rather than like a Walking Dead zombies or the enemy type thing, like of an apocalypse. And if you do get that, you don't get to see the personal side of the aliens. So I just wanted to try to bring all those things into one. And for a while I was saying my series like ET meets Alien House of Cards, which in a way it will be. It's not necessarily there yet, but I think all the pieces are in place to describe it that way for sure.
Awesome. Yeah. And you have 2 issues of the Gyro Universe, and now you are coming out with the first issue of a side story.
So the Kickstarter is for the 3rd issue of the Gyro Universe. But I did post something today, which you're referring to, is I'm making a side series called Relative Pieces. And there'll be like all sorts of stories from the Gyro Universe, like stories that I don't want to tell with the main plot. The story, like the one that will be out in August, hopefully with issue 4. So the next issue in the main storyline plus the side issue will be out in August, hopefully, barring injuries. But that story, this first side issue story, will be called issue 0, and it takes place like right before the prisoners are sent. Recap: the the invaders of Earth are prisoners on their own planet, and their authoritarian government sent all the prisoners to Earth like a intergalactic Australia situation. So this is before, it takes place before that happens, before the Chancellor of the Reich, like the evil authoritarian government, Gorbachev, gets elected. And it's about just, it's going to tie into some things happen with issue 3 and 4, and just basically gives you a perspective of like civilian life on, the moons of Vonador, which is where these aliens are from. And but yeah, so that will come out later. Issues 1 and 2, I do the series in sets. So issues 1 and 2 are done with one artist as the main illustrator, and then I told earlier how it's an existential adventure to tell all these stories. So there's like a grand cosmic plot that tells the invasion tales. And so the artist that does the grand cosmic plot will stay the same for every issue, whereas the invasion stories will change. The artist will change every 2. So for
the grand cosmic plot, is that the mind tells tales?
Well, it's just so I do it in sets. So the first 2 sets are called On the Frontier of the Alien Apocalypse. So that's with like Thomas as the artist, and the grand cosmic plot is that beginning page where it starts you off in a fiery dreamscape, and it explains like what's going on with this thing called Lamadium, which is a universal given gift to a few that helps you basically see all the moments in space-time. And a few of the main characters have that in the story. And so basically the one telling the story is telling the story of what the invasion of Earth. So that's what the grand cosmic plot is doing. And that's going to be throughout all of the main issues. And that's why I have the side issues for a reason, because like in that first set, the first 2 on the frontier of the alien apocalypse, that's, like I said, that's told through a fiery dreamscape. You start out like it's literally in a fireplace. There's somebody's telling you a story, and then it fades into the invasion. And then eventually by the end of issue 2, you even see like that the fiery dreamscape start breaking through the actual invasion tale until eventually you fade out at the end of book 2. And now book 3, which is going to be on Kickstarter.
And that's what we just to tie it in. That's what we discussed in our previous conversation, right?
Yeah. So now book 3 fades in, and now I'm using a new artist, Ryan Tavares. He's great. I don't know if you got a chance to check out the book, but so he's a new artist. We faded into issue 3 because of situations that happened at the end of issue 2. Spoiler coming up, 3-2. One of the main character alien hits his head and he gets knocked out. And now the main character alien Rotan has lamadium, which allows you to see all these moments. And so he hasn't really been able to use this. And so he's going to go back in time to examine like his memories to when he got lamadium and what happened on his planet to what got him in jail to now. And that's what the next 2 issues are that I'll be doing with Ryan.
And is that the Mind Tells Tales?
Exactly. So
okay. Yes, I did check it out. It's really fun. Yeah. And I checked it out. I should also mention while listening to the soundtrack, which is like one of my favorite things about your project, that you have a supplemental soundtrack that provides a soundscape as you're reading. It's not at all distracting, but rather enhances the reading experience, which is I'm growing more and more fond of that type of multimedia experience that's not just the video and sound of a TV, but rather, really truly multimedia books with a CD player on the background and a stuffed animal you bought to cuddle of your favorite character. You haven't released those yet, but I imagine they're in your near future that you have plushies of the aliens.
I hope so. That'd be pretty cool. I appreciate you mentioning the music. Yeah, I got lucky. I definitely worked on the music. I wrote the songs, like the lyrics at least for the most part, and helped produce them. But mainly that's all my buddy Sam. He's super talented at like any instrument you pick up. You'd think that's his main instrument. He's so good. And
and it's layered and it's orchestral in the sense that you have multiple layers of various instruments, and
definitely
I see the Grateful
genres.
Dead flag behind you. It's very like, I don't know, of that
it gets a little spacey. Some of it gets spacey
kind of variety.
For sure. Yeah. We try to keep it. We wanted to have different genres, so there's like the rap in there. We got the spacey. We got some funk. We got some jams. We definitely a ballad at the end. We try to keep it. Try to give like the series itself, not just keep it in one specific genre. And hopefully we want to write more albums in the future too. Like we have ideas for like at least 7 more of types of albums we want to write. I don't know if we'll ever do them, but it's
you got to keep
fun.
it going. It's such a great enhancement. Yeah.
I mean, the music itself, it isn't all instrumentals. There's the actual lyrics to it. So it's meant like we want to make an actual album rather than just like a soundtrack. Because he plays his band Malfrey, based out of Buffalo. They play those songs too, and I guess they're going off pretty well. But I'm glad you listened to it.
And can we find them on Spotify too? Malfrey?
I don't know. I would look up Sam Schaefer. And if you can just go through at the Gyro Universe on Instagram, you'll be able to find all that information too.
Awesome.
But it's definitely been fun doing the music too. And Gobatrog, like I said, there was the rap in it, and it's literally supposed to be from the alien dictator Gobatroggle. He's the rapper of it, and like he's like a rap soul guy. And don't be surprised if
he lays down some bars.
If he lays down some more bars, not just on Spotify, but in the actual series eventually, because. So issue 3 and 4 takes place 100 years before the actual invasion that I call just arrival. It takes place 100 years before the aliens get to Earth. And it's because the aliens are older, like they live a couple hundred years, which at 100 years is called a lifetime. And this takes place before, but originally before I wrote The Mind Tells Tales, like issues 3 and 4. Issues 3 and 4 were supposed to be called A Tale Between Worlds, and was supposed to be Alien House of Cards, like all about like Gobatroggle and the Reich and all these nefarious things they're doing, like to maintain control of power. And that issue is a lot of fun, but that was supposed to be the next sequential issue. And I was working with a couple artists that I had lined up, and everyone just kept flaking on me or bailing, and I was just never able to get it done. And it got to the point where I was getting nervous because like I have schedules, like, you know, like I said, like issue 4 is supposed to be out in August. Like I wanted to make sure that I had issue 3 on at least by February or March now. And so I was looking for artists before issue 2 was even out for the Gobatroggle issues, and it just kept falling through and falling through and falling through. And along the way, I was trying to link up with this guy, Eamon Cohen, who's working on Relative Pieces issue 0. And I was like, maybe I'll just make this into the issue 3 instead of just having it be a side issue. And how can I fit it in? Because I was just I needed to make sure I was pumping out issues still, because I didn't want to wait another year before I got another issue out.
Right.
And so I was trying to scheme that, and we almost did it, but I ended up kind of writing something else about it that I kind of branched off of. And I just didn't know where to go with it. And then I was looking for more artists, and I came across Ryan Tavares art on Instagram. You should all check him out. And he's got this great series that he creates himself called Nomads. And it's like a great adventure journey taking place in like, you know, like what you'd like a tribal type setting. And it's awesome. And I really like his art, super unique. Like, you know, by looking at Thomas's art too, like he's got a really unique style. And it's kind of every two, I want somebody who's not like you're going to see every day. And I definitely liked his art for that. And we did an art trade, book trade. So I got his Nomads and he got Gyro, and I just read it. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to write a story I asked him if he was open for commissions, and he was. So I read his book and I wrote issues 3 and 4, The Mind Tells Tales, for Ryan, because it takes place in kind of a similar setting as Nomads did. Oh, and so cool. I liked Ryan's art, and I think he honestly would have done great as like the House of Cards issues, but I didn't want his style to be the House of Cards issues. Like I wanted some like a different look for him.
It's a little grittier than the first 2 issues you put out for the main story of the invasion, right?
For sure. But I don't know, it kind of worked out though. At the end of the day, like the segue I ended up having to take to write these issues is honestly way better than to just go right into what I was going to do for issue 3. It would have worked. Like I know it would have worked if I just went into it the way I had planned. But I kind of like the way I did it better, because now I can layer the story so much better. Because if you read it, like it takes place as the Reich was really starting to get power. Like in like it's pretty layered, because it's talking about like how you're you know, transporting other, you know, nationalities of their aliens to different moons just so they can maintain power and build up their society. And I'm really happy with the way it turned out and how we're able to do it, because now I even get to explain, you know, everything about Rotan, the main alien, like how he got Lombardium, like what he did, because it's hinted in the first 2 issues like that he's some sort of badass guy, freedom fighter, but like that's all you got. And I knew one day I was going to have to either do like a flashback or the side issue to explain what happened with him. But I'm happy I was able to do it this way, because at the end of the day, even though in the first 2 issues, you know, he has a big role, it's not as big as, you know, the humans. He's the main character of the story. If out of any character, it's the old man alien Rotan, who has Lomadium, you know, because at the end of the day, the reason why Lomadium is even a thing is because I think all fantasy stories need something that just binds their world together, whether it's sci-fi fantasy, just regular fantasy in general. I mean, you think about Star Wars, like the Force, think about Avatar: The Last Airbender, all those elements, no matter where you are in the world or what avatar you're looking at, it's always, that's what connects the world. So I wanted to have something like that. And that's what Lamadium is. And so
since it's kind of like fate like instrument that, it's the thread that bonds all and everyone. And
basically the way it's described in the book is that if you have it, you have the ability to read all the cosmic energy in the universe. And it's kind of like a take on, everything in the universe is made out of the same elements, and all of it has the same stuff. And so if you have Lamadium, you're just able to see everything that has happened previously in the universe. And maybe if you're super good at it, maybe even in the future, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So essentially, I mean, your story is in the realm of the epic. I don't know if you would consider epic fantasy or epic sci-fi or a blend.
I call it epic
two.
Sci-fi fantasy. Yeah. I call it epic sci-fi fantasy for sure.
Yeah. So you kind of already answered one of my main questions, which is, or you started to talk about it at least, but digging a little bit deeper, how do you, in this case, I guess it was circumstances, but when you have a story that's so large with so many sub stories, so many characters for whom you could write side issues, like how do you decide the trajectory and the timing of when to interject something that is not the main story?
Yeah, I don't know. I think you kind of got to get lucky. I would say that my main focus, and I think why it took me so long to get like issue 1 good, and even like issue 2 for a minute, was because, and maybe we talked about it in our first interview too, I wanted to make sure that everything I put in that first issue could branch out. Like I didn't want to put myself in any sort of box. I just wanted to give myself room to make it expand forever. And I worked hard to, put myself in a position where I think, or put the series in a position where I think it did that. Because like how many times did I go through the lettering and be like, oh, I can't say that word because that would just screw everything up. I tried not to go crazy about it because like, I mean, if you're going to do that, like you're never going to finish anything. But I tried to like, at least like, cause there's some things I'm like, well, maybe that doesn't necessarily make sense, but it works enough, and I think that happens in a lot of stories in general. Like you'd see that in Star Wars, especially all the stuff that Disney does with Marvel and Star Wars now. They're getting lucky that everybody just likes that stuff because some of the stuff just no.
Lacking in true.
Yeah, they're just like
narrative continuity.
It. Yeah, but so I think it all comes down to that. I like I said with these 2 issues, like I always knew they were going to happen. I just like in a way, I just didn't know they were going to happen the way they did. For like the Mind Tells Tales issues.
Well, I think it's good for me as a reader because reading the first issues, you kind of jump in pretty quickly to you're on Earth and Earth is being invaded by aliens, and you're like, holy crap. And you get an idea that their Earth is going to be a kind of penal colony, like you said, the Australia of the galaxy. And you're left kind of wondering like, well, who are these aliens and why? And it's nice to breathe some backstory into who they are and give some depth to like, we think of foreign countries and foreign people as the other. Oftentimes, we even think of maybe people in the town over as the other. And in your story, the alien is, by virtue of being an alien, the other. And so it's nice to like pretty quickly, but not too quickly, be acquainted with them in a more intimate way that you're like, okay, I see that they have a robust history and culture. I might not understand it, but I see that they have things that made them who they are, even though I might not know all of the details.
Gotcha. And thank you. I'm actually glad you said that because I was hoping for that because, I definitely in this one, you'll see the next couple issues, like issues 3 and 4, way less dialogue than the first 2 issues. And obviously that's the nature of the story. Like an invasion thriller probably is going to have more dialogue than like these issues are action adventure issues. So obviously there's going to be less dialogue in this. But with what you were saying is I couldn't like, I don't want to keep like give the whole history in one thing. I just wanted enough for, the reader to think about it. Just like,
you don't want a data dump, right? That's the thing is like, how do you get the information across without being like, and in the year,
exactly. So I try
to year 2853.
And I kind of came across this too. If you remember in the new issue, in issue 3, there's like a moment where Rotan is fighting with his brother Broton, and they're talking about like their history of their nation, like their nation within the moon colonies of Vonador, and they say stuff like, well, the elders put us in a bit of their elders lost us this fight a long time ago, and they kind of hint at like what happened, but they never really say it. And I was worried when I did that because I was like, I don't really want to say it. I just kind of want to have it like, I want them to know what they're talking about. I don't really want anybody else to care.
Yeah.
As long as the characters know what they're talking about, that's fine. So everybody else can do the rest to kind of fill in the blanks.
There comes a point where you cannot tell the history of a history of a history of a history, right? Like, you can't dig back so far. I mean, I'm
trying though. I'm trying.
But you're trying to do it in a way that's entertaining and engaging, not a history book.
Not a history lesson for sure. Because there's also in the side issue and in issue 3 and 4, it presents you the ancient culture of the moons, of like what happened before the Reich and before even like what the aliens were like then, different beasts. In this case, in issue 3 you meet a Loontrex, which is basically a space dragon. It's a dragon that it has the ability to fly between moons, and in ancient times they had a lot to do with the Vonadorians, the aliens on the planet, and now they're just myths, just like Rotan. In present day, like as far as the invasion happened, like present day invasion, Rotan is just a myth. Like in that side issue, you'll even mention that the civilians have heard of him, but they didn't know he was a real thing because the Reich is just trying to suppress everything. It's just like any authoritarian government. They don't want anybody to have names. They just want them to be numbers or functions. So a lot of that's disappeared, and we get to see, get a breakthrough with some ancient stuff that you just get hints at. So I don't know if I answered your question about how I know what to do. I think Stephen King said something once where you just make characters and you try to put them in places, and then you hope you can connect the dots, And before I ever read him saying that, because I literally read that like a day ago in the Stand, like his preface. Before I ever read that, I was always just trying to just get from point A to point B. Like, and for instance, in issues 1 and 2, like the humans, the family, the Gallo family, I'm like, how do I get them? They're in a bunker. How do I get them out of the bunker? And let's say not even like out of the bunker, I want them to be at like their next safe haven. Like, how do I get them to that safe haven? And so you just connect the dots from there, and then hopefully you get lucky. Like, because like Gobitroggle was never, the House of Cards was never an initial plan when I went to write. It was always only supposed to be just like like a Walking Dead version of aliens on Earth. Like it was supposed to, that was like the initial type of plan. But like then I'm just like
less deep and political thriller. And
yeah, well, I mean, I just didn't know how to get there, and it ended up being that way. And so when I was writing it, I was like, wait a minute, where the hell are these aliens coming from and why? Like, and then I was like, oh, there's gonna be like some dictator on their planet. And that's one of those things. Like, he was never planned until he was. So
that's cool. I think that leads us to a cool like process oriented thing, which is we might have talked about it when we first spoke, but I've definitely covered it with other guests, is like using bullet points. And I mean, you're saying connecting the dots, bullet points are those dots, I think. And if you know what you want in a story, like you're saying A to B, and then sometimes you could find an interesting journey to connect them.
Yeah.
Because there's only so many options between A and B in any story to get from one to the other that makes logical sense and isn't so outlandish. So
I would say this
narrows the sandbox that you're playing in. You can't like the people who are on Earth aren't going to teleport to get out to their safe haven because that's not like in their area of expertise or not in their toolkit. So it's interesting from a process standpoint as well.
Well, the way I do it, and I didn't start doing it this way. It's more something that happened starting right with issue 2, and I have 10 issues written, although only issue 3 is out. Probably have more than that outlined, but I basically outline all of it. So like for issue 3, for instance, I knew it was going to be like the general idea. I knew Rotan is a badass multi-moon mercenary who ends up in jail. And so it's like issue 3 starts out peak badass, riding the dragon. Issue 4 ends, he's in jail. Like, where did they get there? And so then let me break it down even more from there. So I go, okay, what makes him badass and what's he doing? So the first scene, I just write, I'll do tabs. I use this thing called Scrivener. And Scrivener's, if you're a writer, use Scrivener. I think I talked about it last time too.
Yeah.
But it's just because you can do this on Google Docs where you can separate you can like have like subtitles or not subtitles, but
it's like a
like bars.
Column. There's like a sidebar
so you
where you could put
it, like
headers.
Headers. There we go. You have a header for your sections. Scrivener just kind of puts it just all. It's meant to have sections rather than inserting your own. So I go there and like each section, I just like make a different chapter. So, or not a chapter for this, I just do scenes, my scenes vary on page length, but in general. So I'll start off like, what makes him a badass? Like, why is he a multi-moon mercenary? So he had to do something to take down the Reich. And in this case, he needs to go after an emperor who rules one of the moons, but just decided to side with the Reich. And Rotan decides, well, what's best for the moons is to not let the Reich have this dude because he's already kind of an issue. So that's scene 1. Next scene is he needs to go home and talk to his brother, and his brother is whatever. And then after that, he's mad at his brother because they had a conflict. So what does he do when he's mad? And then you say like he storms off in rage. And then next one is he fights the Reich. And then you just like have all those scenes and then you put them together at the end. And I don't necessarily know what they're going to say to each other in each of those scenes. I just know that I give each scene a title on whatever it needs to happen in there. And then I just connect the dots. And sometimes I know it happens in the last scene more than I know it happens in the first scene. So I'll just write that and then I go back and you go through your process. But I don't necessarily know the specifics. I just know like the header of what's going to happen.
It's kind of like putting together a puzzle. Like you dump out the puzzle, you have all the pieces. Maybe when they manufactured the puzzle and broke it apart, they didn't break apart everything. So you have like one solid idea, like there's 3 pieces that are stuck together.
They're already connected.
And then you build out like 3 other pieces that are probably somewhere else, maybe in the other corner. And then like slowly they start to merge together. But usually when I haven't done puzzles in a very long time, but usually I end up with like a couple of main islands, right? Yep. And then you try to group the islands together and it kind of takes shape in that way.
That's a great way to describe it. I mean, that's basically how I do it for sure. I haven't done a puzzle in a while. I tried doing one, not last Christmas, but 2 Christmases before that. I had like 1,000-piece Christmas puzzle. I lost so much patience so fast for that thing. I could not do it. Couldn't do it. I was like watching TV more than I was doing the puzzle, and then I'm like, piece like so
was
much.
It one of those ones that like?
Well, the problem was it was all
hard
white
to differentiate.
It was all white. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, I was supposed to know what I'm doing here. Like I'm looking at the box, but it's all white. Like
I think we should maybe it is a gift. Maybe it's the one you were doing. I was going to say we should make a gift instead of giving people coal or something like that.
Yeah,
people who you don't like,
puzzles.
You give them a puzzle and it's just a white like square that was made into a really like a 1,000-piece puzzle.
You can know,
but there's no image on it. It's just white.
No. I like that, but we should change it a little bit and make it like a lighter gray image on top of it. So it's like, basically white, but we got a transparent gray shadow type thing so there's actually a way to put it together. But like,
no, I don't want them to put it together. I guess I'm being vengeful. All those people who I don't want to get gifts for.
Yeah.
But end up getting them a gift. These people don't exist in my life.
This is the worst Secret Santa I've ever had. Who gets somebody an impossible puzzle? What it would be even better than that, actually, just because we're riffing on this real quick. Have a puzzle called the Impossible Puzzle and make people think that it's just a really hard puzzle, but you actually can't do it. There's just no way. It's literally impossible. That could work too.
Or if you want them to feel good, it's a version that's like really easy to put together. It's like, I did this. It's impossible, but
I think those are just called like 50-piece puzzles. Yeah.
No, but if you call it the Impossible Puzzle, then they'll go into it thinking like, man, I got my work cut out for me. Yeah. Then an hour later, they're like, you know what? That was a confidence booster.
I think my only problem with that is if you're trying to put a puzzle together for confidence, I think you got other issues. Like there's probably other confidence builders out there that aren't puzzles.
This is rough for me to hear because I just started. No. Man. Don't invite Al back on the podcast, I guess is my note for today.
He's a puzzle hater. He's a puzzle hater,
and he's bringing down my mood and my
just ruined the total vibe.
My self-esteem by building these easy puzzles.
Next time if I'm ever on again, if you let me on after that, you should just have like a puzzle in the back of behind you. Yeah. Jeez.
That would be kind of fun to puzzle would be impossible, but have some sort of game behind me. And with each episode, one guest makes some move.
Ooh, like some sort of chess.
Yeah, something like
chess like that. Okay.
Or even like a creative. I mean, it is What's Your Random creative podcast, right? So even if it's like I have a collage.
Oh, I got it for you.
Or a drawing or something.
I got it for you. So one of my favorite things to do when I was it was mostly high school, middle school, but definitely in college too, because I didn't take real notes in college. I would do like Stickman Wars, and it's basically you just take a piece of paper and you just start with like one stickman doing something. So I would always start with like a stickman in a tank, and the stickman in a tank is shooting at a like helicopter, and you give them like some sort of grand setting. And now if you're doing it with somebody, you draw one thing, they draw the next thing. It's all just stickman in a full out war. And next thing you know, you have a whole page of things going on, like a tank shooting at a helicopter. You got Batman there. You got like whatever, and maybe there's a sun ripping a bong. That was a big thing I drew. Yeah, it's getting lit,
As the sun
would brighten up somehow. But yeah, so you can do a stickman war or a What's Your Random type version of it,
Yeah, I like it.
Those were tons of fun. I might have to, after my recovery, I'll try.
You might have to put one in a Kickstarter as a stretch goal. Like, hey, just throwing it out there. But if we blow past our goal, I will do a stickman war.
Original art by Al.
And then like animate it, like draw it like a video as you draw it, and it'll kind of grow.
Oh, that
would
be
time lapse
cool.
it. You could slow it down, speed it up depending on the action.
That'd be pretty cool. I wish I knew how to do that. That'd be cool. I've only been learning since I've started getting into comics. Like I didn't know how to write. Like I didn't know how to make a comic. I didn't know how to talk to artists. I didn't know how to do a Kickstarter, and let alone like now like making a video too. I sent you the video. It's like a little trailer video for it with another song that Sam wrote. And like I had to get a video software to try to make that. It was a free video software, but I was still like, I'm like, I don't know how to do this. I'm just like spending so much time trying to figure it out. Like Photoshop, I tried learning Photoshop for a minute. I was like, I'll come back to it. Like there's all these things that I'm just trying to learn. I'm video editing with playbacks and Stickman Wars. That might be like maybe issue 5. We'll get there.
That's pretty soon considering your pace.
I'm thinking Q1 2023.
It's right around the corner, dude. I was looking. So you did your first Kickstarter August 2021, and that's like 6 months ago, I guess, if I'm doing the math correct.
Yep. So I released issue 1 for the first time on Amazon in January of 2021. And that was well, I guess I got a nice wrapper too. I don't know what I'm doing here. But that was this one, and this one was cool. But I learned when I was doing this, I had no idea what I was doing. And then for the Kickstarter, I started working on issue 2, and that's how I realized I had no idea what I was doing with issue 1.
And then you released them both together.
Yeah, so I remastered issue 1 and because I didn't have to do much. A lot of it was lettering. A lot of it was just like aesthetic and like also like making it work together like a complete series, whereas that it wasn't gonna work the way it did, and it wasn't it didn't look as clean as it should, and I learned how to do that while I was working on issue 2. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go back and fix issue 1. Took a little bit more time. I didn't have to do it's not like I needed new art or pages. I guess I did need one new art page, the fireplace at the beginning. But so that didn't take much more time. But so I guess it took like 8 months from then to get the remastered and issue 2 out. And then it's been 6 months to get this one.
It's pretty quick turnaround, man. You're
it really should have been pace. So much faster than that. A lot of it depends on how fast can your artist work too. Like if you have it written, that's one thing. But like Thomas, like, going into it, he told me, he's like, hey man, like I didn't know how to get an artist, and he was one of the first people I hit up, and he said he could do it like in so many months. And then when that time came, he's like, I'm still pretty booked. I can do 4 pages a month total, which is like, it's pages, but it's not a ton, especially if you have a 24-page book. Like how long is it gonna take to get that done?
8 months.
And yeah. So when like I was telling you at the beginning, I was originally working with like 3 other. I started working with one artist for issue 3 in May. Like that was like August was when issue 2 came out. I started working with an artist in May for issue 3 because I was trying to get it out right away, and that fell through maybe in 2 months later, right before the Kickstarter. So then I start working with this other artist who we worked together for a little bit, and then he gets me some sketches and we're great. Like he reads it. He's super back and forth with me too, which that first artist he could have done it. I just ended up wanting to not work with him because everything was a problem for him, so it's like, and he didn't care about the story or the emotions of the characters. Like, and if people aren't going to do that, like, do you really want them invested in your project with you?
That's a good thing. That's a good thing to note. Like I'm working on this project with a couple people now, and as I help them reach out to try to get other people involved, I started to, at least when I do it, put together a very short explainer of like the genre, the style, the mood, the themes, and the emotion that you're trying to capture. Because like if you're gonna do something that's like anime based, you should probably find somebody that is not just good at like a anime like style, but somebody who's interested in the genre of anime that you're doing, or manga, or whatever it may be. So like get people that are, I guess my advice to myself and anybody listening is to try to find people who could be passionate about the actual content that you're putting out there, not just like,
because it's their work too at the end of the day. And if they're just trying to make a paycheck out of you, that's I don't think you want that. Like,
and build their portfolio. I mean, there's still like, I still understand that aspect of it. Like, I mean, artistic work is artistic work, but you want people who are like smiling when they do the work, right?
Yeah, I mean,
that's one thing I said to people.
You want them to be. Sorry to interrupt. You want them to be proud of it too. You know, like like you don't want to just be like, oh, I did the sci-fi alien thing. It's kind of cool, I guess. Like, and everything I would tell them, like I similar to what you did, I typed up what Lamadium is, because the way I tell my stories is, like I said, in the first set of, I do it in sets of 2 for each artist. The first set of issues is told through a fiery dreamscape. This, starting with issue 3 and issue 4, is told through like space-time windows. And so my grand cosmic plot artist, Emma, she drew the main character Otan basically walking through his mind, and he sees these windows, which are panels from Ryan's art, and he basically fades in and out of them like it's Mario 64 paintings, and then he goes into the worlds. And so each one, every 2 issues, there's going to be a different way to tell the story that way. And that's why I have the side issue in general, so I don't have to do that. So like, I tried to explain that to him, because I mean, the way issue 3 was going to be presented is in a certain way, like it's not a fiery dreamscape, and it's not space-time windows, but it's a different way to present the story. And I wanted to explain to him what Lamadium is and how we get there. And he's like, I don't need all this. I just need the actions. And I'm like, okay. Like, I worked with that for a little bit, but then when we went back and forth, he's like, no, it's too much. And so I was like, you know what? You're right. And then I moved on. I got this next artist, and it was actually super refreshing, because he was like, well, what are we trying to convey with this scene here? And like, what's going on here? And he was asking me about like, so does Lamadium work this way? And am I able to do this? And I was like, okay, I'm gonna get this done. Like, this guy's into it. And
yeah, if he's asking me about the limitations and
yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I was sweet. And then next thing I know, his iPad breaks or whatever he draws on, and he's like, hey man, sorry about that. I just ordered another one, and it should be here in a month or 2, or I just had to get it fixed or something. And then a month out, like, we were gonna start, I think in October, maybe it was even September, and we were gonna start. We had a start date, like, this is when we're gonna start doing these issues, and it's gonna be done by whenever. I hit him up literally 20 days before. I'm like, we're still good, right? And he's like, we're still good. We're on. Can't wait. And I'm like, awesome. I hit him up maybe a week or 2 later with something. He doesn't get back to me. I hit him up so many times after that. The day comes. I wait like 5 or 6, maybe a week after this happens. No word from him via email, Instagram. And he was chatting me up like a lot about this. So he ghosted me. And I'm thinking he might have actually died. I have no idea. Like, because I don't know why he would be so into it and not respond, or even be like, hey, I can't do this. Like, I'm telling you, like, he read all the issues. He asked me so many questions. We went back and forth about like political motives. Like, I couldn't believe, I was so surprised that he didn't do it. So I don't know. Damn. I think he might have died. Like, he might have, like, who knows? Like, he
is his Instagram active? Like, did you try to?
No, his Instagram is not active. It's not at all. So I'm thinking, like I said a prayer for him. You know, like, I hope he's okay. I really do. But like, as far as I know, he might be dead. Like, he didn't, or he's offline. He's AWOL. He's not. He didn't respond to me. So I find Ryan in November. And this is back to the story of how fast we pump out issues. I hit up Ryan in November. Thanksgiving, I get him, like, see if he can do commissions. I write the issue 3. I get it to him by Thanksgiving. He has the whole issue penciled by like December 2nd. Like, I'm telling you, like, a week later, it's thumbnailed, I should say. He has the whole thing thumbnailed in like a week and a half. Then it's all penciled like a week and a half after that. And it was done basically. He got COVID, and then there was holidays and stuff, and I had COVID, so there was a little bit of delays, but it was all basically done. All of issue 3 was done in like 2 months. So a lot of it depends on like what your artist can handle for capacity. Because like, I mean, I even know with Ryan, like, we plan on start working on issue 4 in April. So hopefully it'll be done you know, 2 months later. But either way, August is the date for the Kickstarter, hopefully. But I don't know where I was going with this. Anyway, he even Ryan has like other clients and his own stuff that he wants to work on. So like to balance all that, and let's say Ryan does it full time, but let's say you're working with an artist who doesn't do it full time. Like they just do it like, you know, we do this like just for fun or extra side hustle that's going to take longer. And I would say as another note for people who are looking for an artist, and I was talking to somebody about music for this, and he's a professional musician, and he's like, the best thing you can do if you want somebody reliable is find somebody who does it for a living, because then you can't mess around. Like they need to do it.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And so I guess if you find an artist, like probably go that route. Find somebody who does it for a living if you're really trying to make sure it gets done and save yourself some hassle and back and forth. But then again, I work with Eamon, who I'm pretty sure doesn't do it for a living. He's going to do the first side issue. He's great. He's awesome. You know, Thomas wasn't originally doing it for a living. It was like a side job, and he was great too. Like he only it was slower, like 4 pages and then 6 pages for issue 2. But he was upfront about it. You know, that's what I got. And I was like, cool.
Yeah, that communication is key, right? Like, so
yeah,
I think that's one of the key takeaways too, is when you're working with artists, everybody has different expectations, styles of working processes, different time management methods, different schedules, different priorities. And like the best thing you could do, I think, in any case when you're collaborating is communicate as efficiently as possible to like
any job,
clarify and confirm expectations.
I mean, any job, just like be honest, like where you're at, and things are just going to go smoother because we're all people. We get life for the most part, you know. You know, you don't have to be Plato to understand that people got shit going on. Like, you know, like just be honest with people and it goes so much smoother. You don't have to just ghost them or just be flaky, you know.
So have you like had any takeaways from your first Kickstarter that will inform how you operate for your second Kickstarter? And like, how is your you know, how has building your fan base been so that you can continue your success with future issues?
I wish I had like a great answer for you. To be like, all right, so there's a way.
Going back to the last comment, we don't need great answers. We need honesty.
Well, I'm basically doing it. What I learned from the first Kickstarter. So I'm doing it in a very similar way I did the first one. I think I was lucky to have a successful Kickstarter. Obviously, I worked hard with it. I got to meet with great people like you who helped have me on and help, you know, get any eyes on it, which was helpful. But I still have like the same idea going in, which is like, don't shut up about it. Like, you just gotta tell everybody like that's what you're doing. Like, and depending on who you're talking to, you might want to phrase it differently. Like my brother's like, he's my brother, so he's obviously going to give me shit. So when I say like, hey, you want to help back my project or like show your support, like he's like, oh, so you're just asking people for money? And I'm like, well, no, I'm asking.
Yeah, in return for you get entertainment product.
Yeah, you get a book. I'm asking people to buy my book if they want to buy my book. You know, not necessarily just like give me money for it. Like it's not so I don't have to put money in it. That's not what I'm doing here. You know, I funded the first 2 issues. And I'm just trying to help fund the next issue, you know, and I fund the next issue by selling the book. And that's all. So depending on who you're talking to, you might want to choose your words wisely. But if you're a writer, you should probably be working on that in general. And then, I want to do stretch goals a little bit differently this time. And I've seen them done this way. I didn't do stretch goals in my first one. And the reason being was just the whole thing felt like a stretch goal to me, you know, like just getting a successful Kickstarter, that's a stretch for me. So I didn't want, and I see other people doing Kickstarters who are like getting, you know, designed the cardboard mailers or design extra things to go with it. And I think if you're first starting out, just don't make things more complicated than they have to be. Just help try to do your best to show people what you're offering and get it out there and be clear in what your story's about. And I know that's pretty obvious stuff, but that's basically like, just don't overwork yourself. Like I'm planning on doing the same for the first Kickstarter. Every physical backer got a sticker and a bookmark. And every physical backer of this Kickstarter is going to get a sticker and hopefully a bookmark too, if if it all goes well. Because that's something where it's not taking away from my overhead, like, or my profit. It is overhead. It's not taking away from my profit as much, because they're like 50 cents, every one. If I'm only selling 100, it's not that big of a deal, and it gives somebody a little something extra, just for coming out for me. And then stretch goals, like people do crazy things, like here's an extra poster, or here's an extra that. But when you get to that side of things, then you have to worry about, how am I mailing this poster? Like, because the poster is 10 by whatever, and my comic is 6.625 by 10, and that's how do I fit it in the mailer? So now it's extra something to mail. So it's like,
the cost isn't just the cost of the poster, it's the cost of getting the poster. And the cost of getting it there costs more than the poster itself.
Yeah,
for sure.
So there's a lot going on with that. So for my stretch goals, I think, and I try to encourage other people to do the similar thing too, because I think it's just great for the indie community, is get somebody's comic that you like or is in the same genre of you, or like the same artist that worked on your thing, and have that be the stretch goal. Like, so when you're 250 over, hey, you get issue 1 of Nomads, or hey, to $500 you get another issue, and then you can do that, and it doesn't cost you anything, and you also help get eyes on somebody else's work that you enjoy, and that's the best thing you can do, I think, as far as I go, for it, not just for yourself but other people, because that's what's going to make this community better. Because at the end of the day, like, most of the people that I'm conversing with and telling people about my comic also have their own comic. It's not, you do find people out there who are just looking
so
to read
incestuous indie. This indie comic community.
so but I mean, you do find people out there who are just looking to read indies because they don't want to read what's happening with Spider-Man or Batman or whatever. And
again,
also they want
and again.
Yeah. And who cares about just filling Disney executives' pockets when you could help, somebody create like a cool, unique story that might even be like their dream thing to do. So there are people who just read indies for those reasons, but I think surface level, most of the people you're going to find who you're talking to also are doing something. They're on their like with somebody or in that realm of things. So it's just to help keep the indie circle going around, and it doesn't hurt hurt what you're trying to do, which is fund your next comic or the comic that you're trying to kickstart. And I think I said this before too, same thing is for my Kickstarter, when you buy my book, any profit that I get is going to the next book, rather than a lot of people's Kickstarters is you're funding the book that you're gonna get. Like, so, which you could do it that way. And I think if you have a bigger fan base, you can do it that way. And if you've already produced a handful of them, you could do it that way. Because not only do you have a proven product, but it's just easier for you to know what you're doing. Whereas I just do it this way because now I'll probably continue to do it this way if unless I find a way, like I get super popular and then I'm able to do more issues at once, and then I could do it that way. But I like doing it this way because it stinks when, like, I backed a Kickstarter in December and it was like a Santa holiday. It looked like a cool thing. I'm not going to say which one it is because I'm going to slightly talk shit, but not really. I backed this Kickstarter. It's a holiday Kickstarter, and I backed it in, I want to say late November, maybe it was even early December, but it's not done yet. So I'm like, when am I going to get this thing? Am I going to get it like in July? I guess there's Christmas in July for some people. It's certainly on the Hallmark channel, but like I'm not about.
Did they set the expectation for delivery and they're late?
Yeah, no, that's the idea, is they're going to do it. But like for me, I'm just like, well, not only do I have to wait 8 months for this book or whatever, I just said 8 months. I don't know actually how many it is, but not only do I have to wait for it, like, am I gonna really want to read Christmas stuff, or am I gonna get it and then just wait like another 4 months for December to come around so I'm in the mood? Like, and then the other thing is with that, not only like that was more specific towards like a holiday themed one, but most times you get books, you want to read them right away, and so I don't want people to back in February or now March and have to wait another 6 months for me to finish the book, to then wait 2 months for me to like get the book in and proofed and ship it. So it's just the fastest way for me to get the book to people is if I haven't done already.
Fresh in their mind, they just made the
they just made
the contribution, and once they don't want to wait, they'll forget about it.
Yeah, so I wanted to get the book into your hands as soon as possible. So if it takes 2 weeks after you have a successful Kickstarter, if you even have one, to get your funds in, which is it was like 2 or 3 weeks for me to get it, and I think that's what I've heard on the street for a lot of people too. So you get your funds in 2 weeks. So let's say people back the first day, which if you're lucky, that everybody's back in the first day, right? So let's say that's March 8th for me. Everybody backs on March 8th. Kickstarter ends, April 7th or whatever day it ends. 2 weeks go by. Let's just say 2 weeks, not even 3 weeks. Now it's, the 21st. Okay, now I send to my printer and we go back and forth for like a day. I need to get my proof. That's 2 weeks from then. So now we're 2 months out. I get my proof. I approve it. Now I have to wait for it to get printed and sent to me. That's like a week and a half. Now we're like working in 2.5 months away. I get it in. Now I have to send it to you. That could be a week and 2 months. Now it's 3 months out till you get it. So I think when I sent, I sent everything in October for my August Kickstarter. So yeah, like 3 months later or 2 months. I guess probably end of October. I think I sent it. So it's something like 2.5 months later.
And that's for something.
And that was as fast as I could do it. That was as fast. Yeah. I couldn't have done it faster. Like there was no slip ups. Comics Wellspring is where I print. They're great. Cheap, great product.
Comics Wellspring. This is my issue 2. Super good quality stuff. And it's like, it's good, like they're not super flimsy like, most comics you get, but I kind of like it that way because then I'm not as worried about it getting ruined. But this is the Grand Cosmic Plot I was telling everybody about, whereas this is like the Invasion Tale. Just so they all know, the Reich. But anyway, great stuff. I had no slip ups. We went right through everything, and it took me that long. So it's like, I don't want to do that to people, because I looked at my Kickstarter recently. If you're waiting for an artist to finish writing it, and then for artists to draw it, and then to get it lettered or letter it yourself, and then go through that process, then you're looking at turnaround time of minimum like 6 months, right?
And now what happens if you do all that and you fucking hate it? You're just like we're trying to edit it to make it good forever, and now it's taking that much longer. But I looked at a lot of my Kickstarters too that I backed. I've probably only backed a little over 20 Kickstarters in the last like year and a half, 2 years. So not a ton, but like a decent amount. I haven't got like half of them. And I'm like, I think I actually got one today, but I backed it over a year ago. And I'm like, I don't know if I haven't read it yet, but unless it's like spectacular, I don't know if I'm going to back a comic from that, because like I want to support as many people as I can support. And I want to like help encourage, people to do more things in the community, but like, that's tough. And then also I've seen that same person release like 5 Kickstarters, since then. And I'm like, I'm not going to back until I get my book. Like, I don't even know what your product is. So I'm not going to back another one. And there's another Kickstarter out, super popular Kickstarter. I'm not going to mention them. And I read the first issue digitally, and I backed like the last 3 on a couple months ago, and they have another Kickstarter out for the 5th and 6th one or something. And I'm like, well, I mean, I already backed 3 Kickstarters this month. I'm not trying to back another one, and I haven't even read the other 2 that I'm still waiting on. So I can't. If I'm that creator, I wouldn't expect people to buy my book if they haven't got the last one. You know?
Yeah. How could you pay for issue 5 if you
haven't read the
opportunity to read?
Yeah, when you've tried,
that you already bought.
Yeah, exactly. But if you're really good, and I know me and you have a mutual friend like J.L. Johnson of Ennead, that guy's such a stud. It honestly makes me upset because he's like, he does it so perfectly where I get his issue when his other one goes on Kickstarter, and I'm just like, damn, that's good.
The timing is good. Well, there's a lesson there, right? I mean, you're talking about the fatigue or like almost forgetting about a Kickstarter, and I think it is important to get it soon after you fund it so that it's fresh in your memory. Like, I remember reading that Kickstarter, watching the video, reading some promo pages, and being into it, and I'm carrying my energy and my interest from the Kickstarter into reading the first issue or the issue itself, right?
Or vice versa. Because like,
and then if you get that issue and you're reading it and you're like, this issue is fucking awesome, and then you close the page and you go to your email that same day and it's like, the next one's coming to Kickstarter in a couple of weeks. Yes. Like,
or it's there already.
It's interesting to think about it from the consumer psychology, not to psychoanalyze readers, but you want to keep an audience engaged, right?
Yeah, for sure.
As consumers of media, people have a certain attention span. And if you're not delivering your media with a certain frequency and a certain style, then you're going to lose some people who have a shorter attention span over those months. So that's something interesting to think about, I think, for people who have multi-issue stories that they're trying to release.
I think he's able to do that. I mean, he's had like super successful Kickstarters, like, or maybe like he probably wants to, like, knowing him, he probably they're really successful, but like he's going after it. He's going after it, you know. But like he's met his goal and then some on every one. So I think if you're able to, like, let's say I double my goal on this Kickstarter, then I would have the ability to be able to do something where it's like I have a plan on having my next Kickstarter out in August, which hopefully means issue 3 gets to you in August, or by that time, March, 2 months before, maybe a month before that. But like, the more funding you have, like, because I need the funding from this Kickstarter to do the next one. So let's say I got the funding from this, and then I got more funding to start doing issue 5. Then I can plan on, making those releases that way. But, you're limited to.
And then you could branch out and like you have a multimedia story. So you could do more music or, people don't realize that, or I shouldn't say people don't realize. I'm not sure everybody realizes that most creators are not taking any of these funds as a profit to pay for the many hours, blood, sweat, and tears, sleepless nights that they spent creating, but rather to perpetuate into the future the idea.
For sure. I mean, I don't know any indie creators making any money off this right now. It's all going into the series, like, and even if I triple my goal, if you're a good business owner, you should just keep putting it into your series, because if you triple your goal, that means you got some interest in your stuff.
Right.
So you should only be trying to encourage that more than anything. So, I mean, I don't think anybody's really making any money off of that in this stage of things, until you get huge.
And even like I guess my point specifically is those reach goals. Like, you assume like, oh, that's cream on the top, right? But that cream that cream is going into the next latte. It's
but
going
also think about it like
this. A lot of extra content and depth.
A lot of people don't set their goals to what they actually need.
Right.
They just try to set their goals to something they think they can hit.
Right. That's also a good point.
You know, like I know a creator who does it all, and he sets his goals at like $500 because he's technically not like losing. He did all the work himself, so he doesn't have to pay anybody. So I guess that's technically going to him if you're doing it that way, but he's also setting it like if his goal is 500, most goals you see on Kickstarter are like $3,000 or $5,000 or something more than that. Like my first goal was $3,000. My second goal is going to be $3,000 still. You know, I would like to do more than that. And theoretically, I think I've increased my audience. I went to one con since then.
How was that?
It was great. It was a good time. It was slower. It was a smaller local one, and it was like Black Friday and like the weekend after Thanksgiving. So it wasn't super popping and like COVID. But like I sold like 30 or something issues, like sets. So like hell yeah. So you know, you increase. I've increased my readership hopefully by, you know, at least 15 of those people. And then you want to hope that, you know, the majority of the people back to last time come back, but I don't think I'm not at a stage where I know that for sure. So until I have like a second or third successful Kickstarter, I'm not going to try to put my goal up more, even though I could certainly benefit from having a higher goal because I know how much work I'm trying to put out.
Right.
But yeah. So, but the cons were great. I'm trying to do Boston Con in August. I got to sign up for that still. And then there's a New Hampshire Con, Granite State Con in September, which I hope to do both those with 2 more issues. But barring injuries, of course, you know, we never know. Keep saying that. But they were great. I really think that's how, if you need to get exposure on your work, that's the way to do it. And
just something about in-person interaction.
Yeah. I think well, not only that, but you're going to like an epicenter of people who are interested in that, you know? Whereas like when I post on Instagram, like sure, I get some hashtags. I'm in my comic is in like an overall indie community and stuff, but you know, maybe somebody sees something cool and they click on it, but that's like what you're hoping for. And that's like best case scenario, like, you know, so it's like, that's not really a ton. That's not a lot to bank on. If that's the only way you're doing it. So,
right.
Cons are definitely, and we all know
as people with phones and the internet and whatnot, like, how much do I ignore, even if I would be interested in it, because when I go to Facebook or I go to Instagram, I'm going there at that moment for a specific other thing. And I'm just like, you know, at work or like doing something else, trying to make lunch. I don't know. And I'm flipping through and I miss something because I'm not just glued to it. And in a discovery mode.
And if you're like trying to be a healthy person, you shouldn't be glued to it, right? Like, so,
right.
So like, you can't rely on like what's happening on social media to help keep your project going. Like, obviously it's a great catalyst to help boost your project, but
not the end all be all.
It can't be more than that, you know? So I think cons, if like, I really want to get exposure, I need to do more of those. And I wish there was some, you know, cons like earlier in the year. They don't happen until the summer, which really sucks because I was like waiting to go for like, when am I going to go for Boston Con? But I'm waiting for Fish Tour to come out. Like, when I don't want to miss a concert here. Like, and I like, so, you know,
you got a booth at the Fish show.
I did do that actually. I made T-shirts for in August when I did my first Kickstarter. I have sweet alien fish T-shirts that I made, and they just got like they have like a version of this cover on it actually. Nice. And they say like a fish leer, because like one of those things when you go to Fish is like all the lot tees, like lot being like the parking lot, and like people just like selling beers or craft goods or T-shirts. And all my favorite Fish shirts are craft tee or lot tees. So they're like, you know, like one, people think I'm wearing an Animal Cracker shirt, but it's really just like a fish shirt, you know, like that type of thing. So I made that, and I tried selling them. I sold a couple, but a lot of it was like, hey, you guys want a t-shirt and a book? Because I was like, here you go. It was like the last day. I had like 5 more. I was just like, I talked to people who I was next to, and I just like connected with them, and they were cool people. So I just tossed them a shirt and a comic, and that actually worked out for a couple people. They still like my stuff on Instagram, so it's nice. But again, that's awesome. The personable thing, you know.
Yeah.
Like, you can try to be personable and talk to people online and DM them, and I do that, and I've met a ton of great people that way. I met you that way too. But like, how many conversations are you gonna have with people that are memorable if you're just DMing them? Be like, hey,
yeah, how many deep and how many conversations feel personable and personal?
And when you go to cons, like I said, it's an epicenter for people who are interested in what you're looking at, and if you get them in, you can start talking to them too. Like a lot of the people who are going there, and whether it's a Comic-Con or like I don't know, baseball cards or whatever kind of con you're into, you know, they could be like, hey, I met that guy or I met that lady, and like he was actually a really cool person. I'm actually hope I'm rooting for him. You know, some stuff like that where you're not going to get that on Instagram, because I mean, like most stuff on social media, you're not rooting for any of them. You know. But yeah, so I hope to do more of those. I think that's the real way I'm gonna get eyes on it. Obviously doing shows like this is great too, and posting stuff, and you got to stay with it. But I just know for a fact, like if I just even look back to, you know, those 2 days, because I only went for the Friday, Saturday, I didn't go on the Sunday. And if I just look back to those 2 days, I sold 30 issues, you know, best 2 days I've had. I had a table. But it was the best 2 days I had as far as like getting exposure to my comic, was those 2 days. And that was at like a small local and basically dead con, because it was after Thanksgiving and COVID and stuff.
Yeah.
So, and like it was one of those also things that everybody to be vaccinated to be in there, so that limits people for getting out there. And I, like I said, 30 copies in 2 days, whereas like I think my best day on Kickstarter might have been like 20. You know, I had a total of like 90 people or something, which was awesome. Thank you all. Ow. But
so do you have any other ideas? I know you have a lot of concepts that you're tying into this as an epic sci-fi fantasy, but do you have any other story concepts that you are interested in exploring outside of the Gyro universe?
Oh yeah, I have so many things I want to write. I have a mailing list too. If you guys follow me on Instagram at the Gyro Universe. Oh sweet, I already have that in there. Dope. I didn't even know I typed that in today. It must be from last time. But if you follow me on Instagram, link in my bio will lead you to my mailing list. And I've only done that since December. And the way I describe my mailing list is just like, it's a random piece of writing. So we're on tune here. It's a random piece of writing, and like both, you know, genre, like whatever type of writing it is and whatever it's about. And I'm just doing that once a month. So the first one was like a preface on what I wanted to explain what I was doing, and it ended with a poem. And then the second one was a short story I wrote. And the third one was a preview at issue 3. And so whether it's a poem or a short story, which I'm sure a lot of will be short stories, because, you know, it's more at my alley. But I do love writing poems. And there's actually a couple poems. There's a poem at the end of issue 3. I don't know if you saw it. And there's going to be poems throughout. You know, I like writing poems, so they'll be in Gyro. But whether it's a poem, a creative writing, a sports article, a review, or whatever, I'm just going to keep writing stuff once a month for whoever wants to read it. Because, and whether people read it or not, like I have like 17, or I actually think I have like 21 people on there now.
That's pretty good, man. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's sweet. It's not one.
There's you know, let me tell you, I opt out of a lot of mailing lists just because, not that I'm not interested in many of them, but just I can't keep up, and then my inbox my inbox feels like you know, one of those old bookstores that just has stacks of books to the ceiling.
Oh, for sure.
I feel like that sometimes when I go into my inbox email, like shit is just gonna collapse all over me and on me, and I'm gonna drown in books and emails.
Oh, definitely. I I feel that. I only signed up for a handful of people's mailing lists, and by I mean handful, I mean like less than this handful. But it's more for me, because it's practice. That's how I look at it. Like, if I want to be a good writer, I need to just write. And so it's actually kind of stressful because like I'm like, what am I going to write about this week? Because I have no idea. Like, and I just kind of go into it trying to write something, and hopefully I can write something good. Now I have like my Google Docs is full of just like, again, like a title of something that I want to write and then a paragraph about it. And I'm like, maybe I'll get back to it. And then on here, I have like this thing, it says mailing list. And I have literally just like topics. And like the first one is called Old Bird Limb. And
Bird Limb?
Yeah. And that's a story because I started playing this game, Sea of Thieves. I don't know if you've played it or heard of it. It's a game on, I think, all consoles, and you're a pirate. It's an open sandbox game. You have a pirate ship, and you just go do pirate stuff. And so
yes, there's a game like that on NES.
Oh, really?
Like NES, 80s NES, and it was just called Pirates. And I remember my brother must have been, let's say he was 8 or 9, and I was like 3 or 4. And it seemed impossible because like you didn't really know what to do. You didn't know where you needed to go to loot and survive as a pirate. And then there were these duels. Like it was sandbox. You would go to like locations on a map. So it was sandboxy for that time. Yeah. And then sometimes you would enter duels, and the duels seemed so real because it was like pretty sure it was one or a few hits and you died, as you would with the sword.
This game's kind of similar. Like you don't have, like you can get, there's different emissaries you can raise to do different things, and you can get quests to go find treasure. But obviously the best way to do it is to just go sink other people's ships and steal their treasure.
No, don't tell me I don't need an awesome distraction.
Oh my God, it's the worst awesome distraction ever, bro. It's so great. It sucked all my time out, except I'm obviously on IR from it, but it's tucked all my time. And my character was like an old guy, had like bird like limbs and so like it's just so much fun. So that's where that came from. But yeah, so the mailing list, just anything I can think of I was gonna write like a sports article on the Super Bowl. I ended up not doing that, but like stuff like that. So that's my main thing I'm doing. And again, like if people want to read it, awesome. Like I want people to read my stuff so bad and like give me feedback. Like it's like obviously as a writer, like you can't really ask for much more than that. But at the end of the day, I'm doing it for me to like keep myself focused on what's the task at hand, and that's just to try to be a better writer, I guess. And it's only going to help Gyro.
One of those mantras, right? Like do the work. It's like pretty simple. Do the work. You're gonna put the time. You want to be better at writing. You want to know how to write.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
It sounds like you're doing it.
I'm trying. And then as far as other ideas, like I have a couple grand scheme ideas for novels. I think probably I talked to you about that I started writing one last time. I haven't touched it since then. I have like a couple chapters in it. I want to write it, but it's just I don't have any. There's no point in me to put time in that right now, because like I really want to just focus on making Gyro successful. Because at the end of the day, if I write a whole novel, like then I'm just kind of in the same spot where I am with Gyro as I have a book. Except here's the thing: way harder to market or publish a actual novel. Because like
I wonder if anybody serializes on Kickstarter. Like, I mean, I guess it's the purpose of mailing lists and stuff like that for a lot of writers, that you can release a story over time, like, half a chapter or one chapter every month or so, and build out a story. And then once you have the story finished, you could compile all of those segments into an actual physical book. And I know like I like Japanese. I'm a Japanophile. I like Japanese things of all variety. And
Japanophile. I've never heard that before.
And
you like some Junji Ito?
I don't know. I'm not sure I know.
What do you mean, Junji bro? Ito. You just can't call yourself a Japanophile and not read Junji Ito. He's like the most known manga horror guy ever. He's known for a book called Gyro.
I think I know him, but I haven't read him.
He's pretty good. I just read this one, Remenia. It's definitely not one of his most known ones, but it was the only one I could find in stock at my local comic book store.
Really? I think I almost picked up one of his books the other day, though.
Yeah, you should. I mean, I'm not a huge manga fan. I was trying to get more into it just because I want to write. I'll tell you when we're off air my idea for what I want to write for a manga one day. Because you know how, like, I tell it through some sort of different lens every 2 sets. So in Fiery Dreamscape, I got the space-time windows, and I'm going to tell one through like a book, like you're going to read it through an actual book. But I have an idea for manga that's going to be so sick. Obviously, it's not even in the cards for the next 10, but one time I will get it out, and it's going to be super awesome. So I kind of just want to read more. But the main reason why I got into him was because I was trying to figure out what makes a book scary,
Scary?
And, yeah, because have you ever read anything that you were actually? I guess Stephen King's pretty good at it.
When I was a kid, I think I was in either 2nd or 4th grade. Definitely not 3rd.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Sure.
It was definitely an even number grade. And there was this book, man, never forget it. This is like going on not quite 30 years, but getting close to 30 years later. And I remember the image. It was a book of that reading level, and it was, I wouldn't call it a picture. I guess it was a picture book. It was a book with pictures, but it had more writing. I think it was like a page with a picture, and then all writing on the other page, or at least that ratio of image to writing.
Yep. And
there was a story about this woman who had a green scarf around her neck, and she goes on with her life, maybe gets married, something like that, and she's older. And I may be making up the circumstances, but something like her husband takes the scarf off her neck and her head falls off.
Oof. Okay.
At the end. And it's like
some Twilight Zone shit.
Exactly. I'm going to say 2nd grade, because I remember being freaked out. I don't think I would be quite that freaked out if I was in 4th grade, but I don't know. Kids are kids. They get freaked out pretty easily.
For sure.
And man, I remember being eerily haunted, but also extremely fascinated, to the point where I was so scared I put the book away, but sometimes I would walk by the book on the shelf.
That's straight horror. That's horror film stuff. You just see it. It's making a sound. It's going whoa, 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 whoa.
No, but also, I mean, it's the strange enjoyment you get from horror that I, as a child who was terrified of it, would walk by to entertain the possibility of maybe glancing at that image again that haunted me.
That's why I watch scary things before I go to bed, because I kind of want nightmares a little bit every now and then. I know that sounds crazy. My friends think it's weird because they're like, I can't watch that before I go to bed. I'll freak out. I was like, yeah, but aren't those kind of cool dreams? Aren't you kind of about that?
Like free entertainment, straight from your brain.
Well, I mean, it also feels real, because I can't watch a movie and be scared. And for the most part, and I'm not a tough guy. I'm just it's a movie. I could play. I'll tell you what. When I played Dead Space 2, you ever played Dead Space 2? That's a horror video game. Terrifying, because you're also playing it. You have to react.
You're in control. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So that's
the
scary.
Story's continuation is totally dependent on your control of the character.
Back to why I was reading Junji Ito is I was October, and I was trying to read a scary comic, and not necessarily a book, because Stephen King does write scary stuff. But he's got the ability to write pages of descriptions to get in your head, to get weird about it, and things that make you nervous or uncomfortable, to describe scary situations, what if you've read It or anything that's scary. But I never really found that in comics, and all the scary comics I came across, or horror comics I should say, they weren't really like horror. They were just like they were supposed to be. It was just like basically if somebody made a horror movie into a comic book, and like nothing that didn't do it for me. And I just kind of went on a quest to try to find stuff like how, because I want to. There's a point in what will be like issue 6 that kind of presents some more horror things. And I wanted to make sure I can like actually make a book that like kind of makes you feel a little up, like a little nervous about what's going to happen. And
so were there any key takeaways in terms of pacing or delivery or anticipation or shock that you're able to like share in a general sense?
I think what I came away with was honestly, like the scarier stuff isn't necessarily supposed to be scary. Like it's just like circumstantial. So it's more or less like in The Walking Dead, the stuff that's terrifying about in The Walking Dead is just like the situations that people have to deal with. Like, could you imagine like that type of stuff? Like, could you imagine being in that type of situation? Could you imagine like somebody breathing over you with blood in their mouth and a knife or something crazy? Like that stuff is kind of scary. And if you're gonna do a monster, show the monster. Don't not show the monster, because you can't, in movies you can get away with building that suspense. You got music, you got effects, you got everything that's playing with you to help build that tension.
You're alluding to the monster without showing it by having sound and atmosphere.
In comics, I don't like, if you're not gonna, I'm reading a comic book because I want to see some shit. Like I'm not trying to like be, you need to see the monster if you're gonna do it. So I would say show the monster and have him do some terrible things if you're really gonna do like a monster horror in a comic book. And with Junji Ito, again, I read Remnia, which is basically about a guy who he's a scientist, finds this planet, some crazy stuff is happening, and it turns out that this planet is actually like sucking up all these worlds around it. And he named it after his daughter, and all these people thought it was, like it was daughter's fault and his fault for the reason that it's like sucking up all these planets. So they were gonna like sacrifice her or whatever. Spoilers. But that was only scary not because of what was happening, but it was the types of people that are around the girl. Like could you imagine being that girl having to deal with all these male figures that like trying to push her in different directions and like also trying to kill her maybe? Like that stuff is like, it wasn't necessarily scary, but it was just like, oh shit. Like,
so it's more like conceptual.
Yeah. So almost. I don't know if those are like my takeaways, but I don't know if that's necessarily like horror. It's just like more like psychological stuff. That's like,
well, and he has, I was, as we were chatting, looked him up just to refresh my memory. But I was actually thinking when you showed me that image of this guy named Kazuo Umez, I think is his name, who's I think his manga are older, but similar eerie style. And that's also like the delivery is important in terms of the your mood board, so to speak. Like what's your mood, what mood are you creating by the design choices in the artist you choose, and then also the framing of the environments and like what you show and what you don't show, like are you showing like, can you show the back of the head for a while and then after a couple of page turns you show the front of the head and it's like a hollow pit of a face? Like that has some, you have to build expectations that it's a little girl for there to be shock and horror. And I'm interested, now that we're on this topic and because of this conversation, in the interplay between shock and horror. Like what's the line, and like how do you play with that line?
That's true. I guess in a movie, I feel like the horror is the shock, like the jump scares. That's what scares you, is jump scares in movies. I feel, at least for me, like, and if I'm gonna jump or be nervous, it's like during the jump scare part where it's like gonna get you. I don't know about comics. It's just hard because like it takes me so long to read. Like not necessarily comics, but like in general, like if I'm reading a novel, it takes me like 2 minutes a page. Like that's a long time. And so in general, if I'm in comics could take less or could take more because I want to take in the images and everything. So I think it might be harder for me to find something like to find shock in a book because I'm not going through it at any sort of fast pace. So it's not gonna shock
I'm the same
me
way.
much.
Yeah.
But I think
that's another interesting thing. There's a director named Takeshi Miike, I guess. Anyway, he is famous for the movie Audition. You might have heard of it. He's prolific. He was releasing, he's a very big, popular, well-known director, and he was like releasing some years 3 movies and like very big budget films, and a lot of them based on manga or existing properties. But he's very peculiar. I'm not like I've seen a lot of his films, but I'm not a huge fan. But I think a lot of his movies, if I'm remembering correctly, it's been a while, but there's like also there's definitely a shock factor, but there's also gradual escalation.
Gotcha.
So now I'm thinking of horror and these sorts of things in terms of like building crescendo.
Well, I guess that goes with any type of genre, though, isn't that? You gotta be doing that. I don't know. Like I said, I don't really have any good answers for how to make a good horror book yet. I haven't found one. I haven't read a lot of Junji Ito stuff. That's the only thing I read, and I read a part of his another book, like when I was in the store. It was actually a little bit scarier than that because it was this creepy dude who like befriends this girl who's also like having trouble in school and not liked. And the dude, he brings her to her house, and like his main thing to do is he has bats, and he lets these bats just like suck on him, and it's like suck his blood. They're my friends. Just let him suck. That was the thing. I didn't read more.
I'm scared just seeing you do the impression of this kid.
That's what I'm saying. That's the stuff that was kind of like scary.
I don't know if I would be more scared of the book or more scared of your impression of the book, because that was you got me.
It was the same thing. It's basically it. So I think it's the creepiness. I don't know if you can. I think you can make things creepy. I don't know if you can make them scary necessarily. I'm not ready. But hey, somebody show me something. I'm ready. I've been looking for it. I literally obviously you can tell like
creepy is more like a discomfort.
Right? Yeah, exactly. It makes you uncomfortable. I don't know if you can really get scared, but you can get uncomfortable. I know that I've felt those feelings from reading books, but I've never felt like actual like fear from something. And I don't know if it's even possible. Maybe it is for some other people, but
there's I want to ask you if you have seen this. It's a video on YouTube that goes through the history of comics in America, and really it started with horror comics and kind of higher level concept things, but then there was a lot of censorship, I want to say in the 70s and particularly the 80s, that pushed comics towards this more superhero bam pow variety.
Gotcha. I think that's why heavy metal became so popular, was because they got pushed into that superhero thing. So they wanted adult comics. And I'm pretty sure heavy metal is like the old stuff is pretty sophomoric as far as like the story stuff goes. But it was a gritty style that they were just trying to get away from where the direction was going. That's why heavy metal was so
In Praise of Shadows is the guy's YouTube channel, and he has 2 parts, and it is a very well researched, very well produced document. I mean, it's just a documentary that you can watch for free on YouTube, and it is way worth your time. And it would be way worth supporting this guy to do more.
I'm gonna give it a shout out.
Part 1 is an hour and a half, and I watched both parts, and I have a pretty low attention span and maybe adult ADD, and I was fully enthralled.
That's awesome. I'll definitely check it out, because I'm one of those guys. I know we talked about when I first came on your show, but like I read some Turtles when I was a kid. I read Batman, but I was never a comic guy. I really only got into comics because when I started writing, I wasn't writing a novel. I was trying to write a novel, but it wasn't one. It was like a script. So I was like, oh, it's a comic book. And I just kind of went with it. So I'm trying to learn more and more about comics by talking to people like you and others who know more than I do about it. And then
I'm also pretty much a comic novice. Yeah, I would say, especially when it comes to Western comics. Like some collecting when I was younger, G.I. Joe, some Eastman and Laird's Ninja Turtles.
The Turtles, man. I'll tell anybody, the Turtles are the best comic that ever existed. I firmly believe that. Especially if you like read it, and they got IDW, they released, I mean, they're still releasing them because there's more coming out, but they released like volume versions of it, and they're like $20 maybe a little bit more depending on which volume you get, but there's like 10 of them, and I have like 5, and because I read them when I was a kid, but I wanted all of it, you know? So I'm only on the 5th one, and they're so good because they hit everything you need to hit. Like if you like, what I'm doing is very different. I'm writing a graphic novel, and as far as I know, the Turtles are like a graphic novel too, but they're comic-y superhero stuff in a way. But they hit everything you want because people think of the Turtles, they think of like those 90 movies and those big plastic costumes, and they're just goofy and whatever. But the Turtles are gritty. Like some shit happens in the Turtles. Especially, have you read The Last Ronins? Like the new stuff. There's only one turtle left. I haven't
kept up.
There's only one. They just came. There's only like 4 issues out, maybe 3. I have them. And there's only one turtle left, and like the world's in disarray, and it's crazy. At the end of the first issue, it shows how like a lot of them die. I was like in tears. It was so sad. But basically,
spoiler alert.
Yeah, I mean there's no spoiler there. It's literally called The Last Ronin. That there's only one left. But they hit everything you need to hit. They hit like goofy, like mutant stuff. They hit like science fiction areas. They're on different planets. They have like everything action. Like it's funny. Like this, like that whole stuff is funny. One of my favorite lines, like from one of the first couple issues, and it's Mikey, orange nunchucks, and he's for anybody who didn't know, they eat pizza. That's like one of their big things, and his friend's like a pizza guy. Like he like works at a pizza place, and he's talking to like his brother. I don't know which turtle it was. He's like, what does that guy think you are? Like why does he just give you pizza? He's like, relax, Donatello. I think he thinks we're Martians or something. It's just so funny.
And it's like Martians are okay, turtles no.
Yeah, talking just mutant turtles. Like, well, because in the issue, it's like a thing about like nobody needs to know about the mutants yet, like early, like they're at risk for being mutant. Like,
oh man, you're piquing my interest in.
So good.
Yeah, I might have to pull them out.
So everybody,
I do have to take issue with you though, man. The first movie is like a masterpiece in cinema.
I love that. And
the
I watched
the costumes
it like a week
got
ago.
Like they stretched them and they bulked them out and they polished them. Like they got kind of Disneyfied in a way with the second and third movie. The first movie is pretty true to the grittiness of the comic.
But I'm just thinking
for a live action movie from 1991.
91. I love that movie. But like I think the comics are a little grittier than that, obviously. But
yeah, I mean, I don't think you could make any film live action that's as gritty as the Turtles comics.
Yeah, but I mean, I love that. I literally watched, I think, the first 2 like recent because they're on Netflix, and I was like, oh hell yeah! So I hadn't seen them in like 10 years, and they were so good. I love all the turtle stuff though. Everybody should like best. I don't know, like because here's the thing, like the other cool thing about the Turtles is like you follow it all the way through. Like it's a storyline, whereas like a lot of like superhero stuff, there's like storyline
or refreshing or
but there is storyline. But how many times has like Bane and Batman been like different than like why is he doing this now and he totally did this time, or like how like there
like
is
linear
stuff. Yeah, it's not exactly. That's a great way to put it. It's not necessarily linear. In a way, you see it in like episodes of television too, where like I know I haven't seen much Naruto, but like there's like 1,000 episodes of that show, and I'm pretty sure like 90 are like the storyline, and like the other are just
the
like
filler.
Yeah, which are great. Like you always love that stuff, but
no, not when not at that percentage. Some filler is good if it's like if it's like your comics and you have a one-off side issue that is well produced and serves the whole of the story, then it's
or
good.
Like helps build the world.
A lot of times with anime, it's because the animation that's released, the cartoon, catches up with the manga and they can't produce the manga and the story quick enough. So they have to make shitty filler episodes, which is just the case, I think, particularly for Naruto and I don't know, a bunch of others. I didn't really watch Naruto past the first 2 seasons or so because of that.
Lot. There's so much.
Got turned off. I was like, I can't even. I don't want to watch this.
Yeah, I get that.
It's a chore to watch these fillers.
So much. I mean, who's got all that time?
That's actually good.
And there's like movies and a side series. There's so much. I think all the big 3 anime shows are like 1,000 episodes or something. I don't know what the Bleach is the other one or something.
One Piece is one of them.
One Piece is the other one I'm thinking of. Yeah. And that's a ton of episodes too. I haven't seen that one either. But there's so many, dude. There's so much.
Well,
so much
it might be on theme for you because it's about pirates.
Yeah. Ooh, wow. Okay. Cool. Maybe I'll check it out. I've heard One Piece is my I started watching Demon Slayer, and have you seen Demon Slayer? Are you all the way through?
No.
I'm not. I haven't watched the movie or season 2 yet. But I just got my buddy's Crunchyroll, and I think
I finished season 1.
Yeah, season 1 was pretty cool. I like the beginning of the season more than I like the end of it. But I heard season 2 gets legit. But my buddies are telling me like you gotta watch One Piece, you gotta watch these shows. Like there's so many. The people who are into anime are into anime like crazy.
Yeah. I'm into it, man, but I've been into it for so long that I start to see patterns of characters that are, and especially in Shonen Jump variety, which is like Naruto and Demon Slayer. I'm pretty sure Demon Slayer is Shonen Jump. It's like you start to see threads in stories that seem to be copy and pasted across the series. Gotcha. That are like, similar character traits with a character who has flaming eyebrows, or like certain elements to even character design that's not totally story related. That's like, this character looks eerily similar to a character from a series from 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And it just like, I think that's just like maybe getting older and having seen a lot of stuff that things seem less and less original, or it's harder. Let me say, it's harder to find something that seems genuinely fresh and new because you've watched and experienced so much media.
I mean, there's so much out there. I mean, you could say that about music too. Like even how much music. I mean, obviously music is way different than it was like 40 years ago now. But like how many songs from classic rock are the same 3 chords? Like they're all that way. So I guess you got to find what you like, and that's what you like. So,
right.
So, but yeah, I get that. I haven't watched too much anime. Again, it was one of those things. Like if I'm going to be in this realm of things, I should know as much as I can about it, as much as I can.
You just got to enjoy. I mean, especially when you're unwinding and trying to, like, I think about it in terms of inputs and outputs. Outputs being your creativity, inputs being the world around you, including the creativity of others. So, I mean, for you, aside from trying to engage in things that gives you a wider breadth and understanding of the genres that you take part in, like, what are your inputs when you are totally deflated and maybe burnt out? Like, what are the inputs that you go to, new and old, that refresh you?
That's interesting. I feel like when I'm trying to write something, I find what I want. So like I have this calendar here, and it's pretty like anally like mapped out by like hours of the day. And I don't follow this to a T at all, especially the last like week. Like, but I separate each day by 2 hour blocks, and then I have like things that I want to do in those blocks. And obviously, work takes up a lot of that, you know. But one of my things is story. Like one of my like on one of my nights is story hunting. So if I want to write a ghost story, I'm gonna start watching ghost stuff. Or if I want to write an anime thing, I'm gonna start watching anime things. So I don't know if I have like default things. Obviously, if I'm ever trying to like I haven't read for a while. I love reading, but it's so hard for me to get into reading, especially if I read a book and I read so slow it takes me so much time. But if I want to read something, I go and I read Kurt Vonnegut because I love Kurt Vonnegut. I haven't read all of his books, but I've read like 8 of them, and I've read a couple of them twice. And I love all of Kurt Vonnegut's stuff. I'm reading a new one now called "God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater," and like that, like I'm already 20. I read it. I sat down for a minute, and I'm 20 pages in. It's great. And that's and now I'm gonna read again. At least I'll read that book, even if I don't read a book after that. But it gets me going. And same like I don't. It's hard. I don't really watch much television, and when I do, it's like at the wee hours of the morning, because I mean, even when I was an accountant.
You just sounded like the world's most interesting man for a second there. I don't watch television,
but when I do,
I watch anime
with Dos Equis. And whatever happened to that dude? I hope he's okay. I'm sure he's doing fine. But yeah, so like I don't watch stuff till late. So it's like I'm always watching something to like fall asleep to it. So I always put on something that I've seen 1,000 times. Like Avatar. I watched so much Avatar The Last Airbender. That is like my favorite show of all time. Besides like The Twilight Zone.
That might be like, the best show of all time.
It literally I've said that to people. Like I don't give a shit about live action cartoons. It's the best show because you get everything. You get character development, you get world building, it teaches you values, all of the stuff you want. And the coolest part about that show, and I think all my favorite shows kind of do stuff like this, is it's a 3 seasons to that one peak at the end. Like and it's cool because from episode 1 that Aang needs to fight Fire Lord. From episode 1. And then it's a huge build all the way up. Obviously, there's some fillers in between, but nothing crazy.
And those fillers serve a purpose. They build the characters, yeah.
Yeah, or the world or whatever. And they're so good at it. And it's just, and also because it's a kid's show, none of your favorite characters die. Like, and honestly, like, The Walking Dead, I just got so sick of that show. Because I'm like, stop killing people. Like, why?
Well, it's also, I mean, I don't know very much about Walking Dead, to be honest, but it seems like let's just ride this horse dry and get as far as we can and make as much money off the series as we can. And Avatar: The Last Airbender, I mean, they released multiple series. They're trying to like refresh and do different things. But it's original each time. It's standalone. It's not trying to use the same characters and just really draw the story out to the point of exhaustion.
They literally milk because like the part with like with Negan and I don't even remember what they're called at this point, but like I'm trying to remember what his group is called. That part of the comics takes like 2 weeks, I'm pretty sure, and it takes like 4 years. And like the show is so
yeah.
So it's just like and all along the way you're just killing all your favorite characters off, and it's like I'm losing. I have no. It loses reason for me to be invested because I just got invested in that character. Now you're gonna kill him off and introduce some new Jamoke who I don't even care about. Like, what's his deal? Like I don't know how he started out. So right. I think Avatar and. I mean, I'm going to kill off some people eventually in Gyro. I have plans to do it. Like
you heard it here first.
You did first.
Somebody's going to die in the Gyro Universe.
And but I don't want to kill off people because, like, why? It was I want to. You're following their story, and I feel like on the show, at least for The Walking Dead, lost its way for that reason, whereas like Avatar, you have it till the end and you get everything you want. And like I literally just got chills down my throat because I'm just thinking about like Sokka holding Toph. Like, I don't think we're gonna make it, Toph. Boomerang's not coming back. That shit, like, oh my god, it's so good. And that fight at the end, and then at the end, like him and Aang and Katara finally get together and they love each other, and it's beautiful. Like, gotta love that stuff. You can't beat it. And so I think being a kid show for those reasons honestly helped make that show that much better. Because I feel like a lot of times, and you see it now, I think in a lot of shows and new media or new movies, they just want to hit that next like level of like messed up shit, which sometimes is great, but other times it's like you're just doing it for the sake of doing it, like I was actually kind of thinking about this. Did you watch Squid Game?
No.
Bro, watch Squid Game. That shit's crazy.
Don't spoil it for me because
I'm not gonna say anything. It's just brutal. Like the end of the first episode is brutal, and then you're like, oh, I'm in for it now. And like that was amazing. But I actually kind of wrote about it a little bit in one of my mailing lists on the short story. And it was about like I was giving like a preface to what the story was about, and the character was saying like on television, back in like I don't know, like the honeymooners, like shit that you see on television back then you won't see now, like a sitcom where he's always threatened to beat his wife. You're obviously not going to ever see that. But there's different television now that reflects the awful aspects of our society in different ways now. And it might not be hitting your wife or whatever, threatening to hit her, but it's just like different ways of like, finding the angst in people and just bringing it out. And I wonder how much that, relates to just like the general anxiety in people today, because there's so much. Who doesn't have anxiety? Everybody does, and some people more than others. But like, I feel like shows know that, and they like just want to like poke at it. They just like want to needle that anxiety to bring it out of you. And I don't necessarily think Squid Game does it, but they just push buttons that they know are going to make people uncomfortable. And I think they do it in a great way, because there's not many new shows that I've gone into where I'm like, yo, watch that show. But
you think like, I'm trying to think about, it's been a very long time since I've seen like I Love Lucy or The Honeymooners. Like, do you think the hitting your wife thing back then was more normalcy in domestic relationships? And like, do you think it was, I'm trying to think about what purpose that served, and it's no longer around, and good riddance.
I don't think it was meant to necessarily serve a purpose.
Was it just a reflection of the
obviously
time?
It did. I guess it did serve a purpose, because it was like the tagline. The tagline was like, "To the moon, Alice," or whatever it was. That was, and
yeah.
So I guess it did serve a purpose. I mean, but I only use that as an example because it reflects what's in the society of like what's going on. Because obviously, like, freaking, men ruled things back then, and like women were just basically just like, accents to their lives, and that's kind of why I just used it, not specifically to bring that out, but that's just an example of the type of stuff that you would see back then, towards like now the type of stuff we're seeing. It's not hitting your wife, but it's awful in some other way that reflects the society, and I guess that like Squid Game, the way they kill people serves a purpose, or like whatever the gambling gets, that serves a purpose too. But obviously things nowadays are different because they're deeper. Not that things back then weren't deep. Like, you can read
but I
novels.
don't think they were. I think those shows are purposefully kind of naive in their presentation and superficial in,
I think it's just a
display
starting
of relationships
point.
And stuff, because they wanted to have a Norman Rockwellian type of leave a impression of like a Norman Rockwell painting. It's like, this is a proper husband-wife situation, and this is how it should be. And
the only reason why I say that's not necessarily true, because I mean, maybe I could think of a better example than the Honeymooners, because obviously there's stuff on television, especially books, that go really in depth about stuff, and you can find stuff from the 1800s that is really in depth about how you think about things. I think for television, it's just a starting point. Like, hey, this is the type of TV we're making. And then like, as things progress, you just have to find that next layer of like, and as we learn more, like you just know more about like how people think about things and psychology. And so it's going to get deeper as far as like motives and stuff. But if you like, the Twilight Zone came out in the 50s, like the Alfred Hitchcock Hour, that's kind of similar to the Twilight Zone. They go over like some deep stuff in that show, like in those shows.
That's a good
and
point.
They do it in very artistic manners to reflect like society. And like you see it more in sci-fi.
And
like,
probably also skirt censorship.
Yeah, for sure.
By virtue of using metaphor. And
yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm pretty sure the Twilight Zone got canceled like 4 times.
Yeah,
it did. It got canceled.
I wonder how To the Moon Alice was perceived when the show first started versus how it was perceived when the show ended, and like if
I wonder
if people took issue with it back then. And I don't know enough about it to
I'd
know
be
the progression, but at least there was that progression.
I would be curious to know when that show first came out to when it ended. But I'm sure like who are all those people in charge of making that show are probably all hitting their wives too, like not to make light of it, but like if the 40s or whatever happens, like yelling at people, like that was just life back then. So I don't think people thought. I'm sure the women thought a lot about it. I don't think much of the men in charge did. But I don't know. But
I don't know enough about the era or the history of the show
either.
To comment intelligently.
That's why I said maybe I should find a better example. But basically, that's all I was saying. Is like the way shit reflects in society. It's still kind of just different now. It's not hitting your wife, but it's just other ways. Yeah.
So how do you think? What do you think? How can I phrase this? Like, do you think shows today are less subversive in their messaging? Do you think like things are more overt than they were back in the day with Twilight Zone and things like that?
I'll actually
that the messages are less embedded, or
in the Twilight Zone, things are overly overt. The characters are overly what they're trying to portray in that show. I've noticed that a lot, actually. Like and part of it is because I think just like, the technology that's available to you, but also like it definitely seems like they're trying to write that type of character, like they're trying to do that. Whereas today, I think they're probably better about like realizing things, like about trying to make things subtle, but at the same time, not too much because they want people to get drawn in. I think what's really different is people get sucked in just because the production is just so much better. It's like,
and access to it.
And it's way easier.
You could binge a show, whereas you had to wait a week in between, and if you missed it, good luck
for sure. And
like
now you
rerun.
Can see exactly how last episode played right into it, and you don't even need the refresher right before to like know how it relates. But I just think about like, I mean, I'll use Disney. I think Disney is destroying Star Wars. I think it all sucks. I think every Disney thing that they did for Star Wars is awful. I think hold on real quick. I just want to go on a quick spiel before I get to my point. Why is Palpatine alive? Like, doesn't that defeat the whole purpose of like the entire thing? Like, the fact that Palpatine was alive defeats the whole purpose of the whole bringing balance to the Force. Like, and they made Luke a little bitch, so it kind of makes me upset. And now what they're doing is, what's great about Disney and Star Wars is it's so immersive. Like the production is unreal. Like I feel like I am in that show. Like it's so good. But it just sucks. It just sucks. They get away, and we talked about it at the beginning. They get away with so much shit because people are already into Star Wars. And not to say that the first three, I think, were the best three, the first that came out. The sequels or the prequels, they're not great movies. They're really not. There's some great acts. The third movie, Revenge of the Sith, the third chronologically, but the sixth one, third prequel.
Right.
Great movie. That movie's sick. The first two they're hard to watch, especially with fucking Jar Jar. I can't stand his voice. They're tough, but there's some dope parts in those movies as far as action goes. The new movies from Disney, but at least the other ones, George Lucas was making it, so they all connected. They were good. The new movies from Disney, it's just like they were just trying to fill roles in the culture and reflect something. Like Rey's cool, but they didn't do anything to make her like a good Jedi or build depth. She just like all of a sudden is the best Jedi ever and never had to train for it. And she's like also like a woman, like she's an adult. And the whole thing before that is like you're too old to learn the Force. That's like the thing. So like in Boba Fett, have you seen the new movie yet?
The
show,
Mandalorian?
No, the Mandalorian is all right. I like the Mandalorian, but
I heard Mandalorian was great.
People love that show. But
I would still watch the Star Wars movies. I used to be as a kid, very invested in Star Wars. But it seemed like they were doing things less to service the story and more to service the pocketbooks and like monetizing anything and everything they could, down to like, I don't know, like some of the merchandise I saw that was actual Disney merchandise.
Yeah, no, Disney is definitely doing that. Disney's definitely doing that. But like the prequels, I think George Lucas just got carried away with what he was able to do with like effects. He just thought it was cool and he kind of got carried away. With 1, 2, 3. Yeah. But Disney's definitely doing that. Like obviously they just wanted to make a woman Jedi and make her awesome because they were just trying to, fill gender roles or whatever they were trying to do. And they don't give a shit. Which
is fine. I like Rey, but they could have done a better job.
They did exactly. They didn't do anything to make her
depth of her character.
Yeah, deep, and it's dumb. And like the Mandalorian, like they basically just. Have you ever seen the show Firefly? That's what the Mandalorian is. Honestly, it's just way better produced.
Yeah.
And like the Boba Fett, they didn't even care to make him the right age. That dude looks 50. The guy who plays Boba Fett is like 50 years old, and I'm like counting on my hands. I was like, okay, if Boba was like, let's say, even if he was 12 years old by the end of the third, like by the end of like the Republic, if he's like 12, and now the Empire takes over, and Luke, this is before the Luke kills, or maybe right after. It was around the time he gets thrown in the pit. I can't think of the name.
In Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. It's right around the time. That's where it takes place. Right after that, maybe a year or two later. If that's the case, if Luke is 24, that means he was born at the time that Boba Fett was like 12, and Luke is 24. So even if it's 24 years later, oldest he is like 36. And I'm just like, why does that dude look 50? I'm like not even in it because
he's not a human, or is it I don't know.
He's
a clone. He is.
He's a clone. But like
maybe he's a clone of the clone of the clone.
No, he was like one of the first clones. They just like kept him young so he could raise. So
is that part of the original narrative?
That's the story, yeah. But like this new shit, they just like want to do stuff because they have cool effects and they can just make a story and they don't even follow things that happen, and they want to tell it in weird ways in a dream. And it's like, you wouldn't have to do that if you just told the story of how it should go.
I would say, I don't remember which movie it was of the newer Disney ones, but I remember we were talking before about connecting the dots of a story.
They didn't do that.
Like having the bullet points and then like having something that fits within the narrative to actually tie together point A to point B. And there's whichever movie it was that had them go to that gambling ring or that casino. It was like a big casino.
If it's the third movie, I stopped as soon as I found out
second or third. Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head, but that is the equivalent in my mind of like taking the teleporter in some story where a teleporter shouldn't be existing to get from point A to point B. It was so outlandish and really unnecessary. And it pulls you out of the story because it's like, you can do something that seems like reasonable. You don't have to be outlandish just to grab our attention. Tell us a good story.
I feel the same thing. Disney, we're just hating on Disney real quick, but like I didn't watch.
I honestly don't watch enough of the Disney content to hate on it, just because it just feels. I mean, I guess saying this is hating on it. It feels a little bit contrived to me, and I love the effects and I love the production, and some of the stories are good and like and interesting overall, but I end up feeling disappointed and like, this company is for profit.
Well, here's the thing: they know how to make a good movie. Like the Star Wars movies they made aren't necessarily bad movies. They're just not like they
could have been better for the budget they had.
Well, they could have just made it Star Wars instead of just doing whatever they cared about to like fit culture narratives or whatever they wanted to do, or like changing directors. Like I just honestly, the biggest mistake they did, like even if they were going to make shit movies, fine, but why is Palpatine alive? That is just so dumb. Like it is literally the point of the whole thing is to kill it. Why is he alive? And then like the other thing is I was watching Spider-Man, one of the first No Way Home with Tom Holland. I don't know if it's his first or second one. Great Spider-Man. He's a great Spider-Man. But you know what they did? And this is why I stopped watching all the Avengers movies after like the third one. And like a lot of the Marvel movies, there's like 40 of them now. They just like purposely try to find areas to like make it purposely corny because like, or like funny to like insert stupid shit. And it's like, why are you gonna do that? It's like they already they found out like, hey, the Avengers was really popular because Tony Stark made some funny smart ass comments every now and then, and people.
I would counter. I'm not. I don't love Marvel. I didn't grow up reading G.I. Joe, but not reading like the superhero stuff. The stuff that I did read, like Spider-Man was cheeky and he had like stupid, Ninja Turtle kind of humor.
Yeah, but no, they just it's you. I mean, if you watch it and you think about like, there's just some like extra like ad lib stuff that they add in just for the sake of like doing it, and it's like it must be something. I feel like they write the script and they're like, all right, where can we insert this ad lib bullshit where we can just like, and it's so obvious too. Like they just like say extra things like at the end.
So you don't think that that's on point stylistically with the storytelling of like the early Marvel comics?
I mean,
just to play devil's advocate, I'm not saying it serves the story.
It is or isn't, but before Disney bought Marvel, that was never a thing. That's all I'm saying. Is before they like in the movies, that was never a thing, and you can see the trend. As soon as Disney bought Marvel, whatever movie, I don't care if it's Captain America, Avengers, Thor, like as soon as they got it, like they started doing that stupid shit, and it's like. It's kind of like you were saying about anime. It's like they just took the template and they just keep moving it.
Yeah,
and they think they can get away with it.
Are definitely that to me. I can't differentiate.
Yeah, and they think they can get away with it because it just looks so cool. They're like, but the multiverse. It's the multiverse, though. I'm like, okay.
There's so much CG in your face.
Yeah, I mean, it's sweet. Like, it's cool. It really is cool. But it's just like, I'm smarter than that, man. Don't do that to me. Come on.
Yeah, like, I want a good story over good.
Well, I mean, the story's not necessarily bad.
Action.
The story's not necessarily bad, but it's like they're trying to con me into liking it more by doing stupid shit like that. I feel like that's what it is,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, they try to go like bigger and better, and it's getting to the point where it's like some of these.
And battles, what really makes me upset on on top of all of that is that they're doing it with Star Wars, because now they're like, and it sucks because I'm nothing but excited for like Obi-Wan and Ahsoka and shit. Like, obviously those two are like my favorite Jedis ever. And although Ahsoka's not a Jedi, I'm sorry guys, she's the Force user. But like, I just know that they're just trying to bring it all together in some big ass movie that they can make a ton of money off of. And it's like, I don't know. Yeah. I don't even know what to say to that. I don't even know. No, but here's the thing: is I'm not necessarily over it, because I'm just gonna watch it and then complain about it, and it just makes me upset. Like, I don't know what to do with myself here.
Opt out, unsubscribe. That's what I did mentally. I was like, the first few Marvel movies 10 years ago were good, but that copy paste shit, there's way more interesting and unique and niche things that I would like to spend myself doing, for sure, rather than regurgitation.
Well, I mean, that's why I've only seen 20 of the 40 Marvel movies. You know, like I stopped watching like 5 years ago because I just couldn't. There's just too much. It's just so much, and they're all just trying to scheme. They're scheming. They're not even doing it for the love. I mean, because Disney's not doing it for the love. They're not doing it for the love of the series or whatever it is. I mean, sure, there's people involved who are, like David Filoni works on the Star Wars stuff, like, but like it's not all him. Like, he can't, like, he does a great job for the most part. I do think a lot of it's good, but like obviously I have holes that I find, and they got people who really care about it, but it's money.
On that note, anything else you want to jump into before we get to the wrap-up segment that I don't think you partook in last time? I think this is new.
Ooh, okay. You. No, I got nothing new. I'm sure whatever we go in the wrap-up is gonna be like, hey, I'm on Kickstarter March 8th. So
that's the wrap-up. But before that, I have five quick questions for you.
I mean, we talked for 2 hours. We could probably talk for 2 more hours about whatever else, but I think we hit a lot.
All right. So I'm gonna hit you with my 5 quick questions. You can provide,
I think,
5 medium length answers.
All right, medium, not short, not long, but medium. All right,
short is good. Short is good too. Long, okay. If it.
Okay, so any answer, you just want an answer.
If the spirit moves you, essentially. Where are my 5 quick questions? There they are. I have my cork board next to me with all of my many projects. Welcome to the 5 quick questions segment of What's Your Random Podcast, Alec. And number 1 is, what is, or do you have a personal mantra?
I guess the short answer would be no. I don't really have a personal mantra. I guess if anything, it would be something like, I'm not going to get involved in anything if I'm not going to be totally involved in it. So, yeah.
That sounds like a mantra. You have a mantra.
But I don't say that. I don't say that. I don't like say that to myself. I just, it's like my Kickstarter. Like, I know I'm not going to be locked in, so I'm not going to do it until March 8th,
Right. Yeah. It's in lieu of a mantra, something like that, a saying that
it's something like that
that you live by.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. I like that one. I haven't heard that before. Number 2 is, and I feel like I might be able to guess this one, but a indispensable tool in your creator's toolbox.
What were you going to say? Scrivener?
Yeah.
I guessed what you were going to guess.
You guessed what I was going to guess as your answer. There you go.
Yeah. I don't think that's like, I think that's definitely helpful, but I obviously write outside of that, so I don't think that's indispensable. I guess it would be my computer. Like, if I don't have my computer, I literally can't do anything. So I guess if there's some sort of tool, I guess my pinky's pretty tough. Like, I'm not doing anything without now, so let's go with my pinky. Let's go with that one.
Yeah. And for people who are just hearing this little 5 quick questions segment, Al injured his finger, almost cut it off, almost severed it And we realize now the indispensable nature of that small fifth finger.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if I lost it, I'd probably be able to do stuff. It was totally gone. But the fact that it's only half gone,
and
I can't.
I'll point out, pun with the point because of fingers, but if you hold out your left hand and you count your fingers from the left, as we do in Western civilization, your pinky's your first finger. Ooh.
Wow.
Useless tidbit. Okay, question number three. Eyes on the prize. What's the prize for you?
I guess hopefully getting another successful Kickstarter. Just next one,
The next one, and then the next one, and the next one. But you got to get to the first next one first.
I mean, I got the issues written for those next ones over the next ones and next ones, but I'm only focused on issue 3 getting out to the people.
Awesome. Yeah, that's something I have difficulty with, focusing on like the thing at hand when there's so many other.
Once you get one out,
the idea is bigger than that,
Once you get one out, you'll be more focused.
I like that. I need to get one out. That's what I say every morning when I wake up and I consider eating prunes. This has been the most potty talked What's Your Random podcast of the brief history of the podcast. So number 4 and 5 questions are the ones that allow us to time travel a little bit.
Okay.
And the first is advice that you would give to a past self. To your past self.
Advice that I would give to past. Probably just don't rack your brain on lettering. I spent so much time lettering the first one and then had to re-letter it anyway when I remastered it. Like, part of that was because I was only getting so many pages a month that I was just like sitting with them for longer than I needed to. Whereas like with Ryan, he gave me like all the pencils right away, so I got all the lettering done, and then I just kind of tweaked it, took a break, tweaked it. Whereas like at the beginning, I just like this tail is terrible, and I just like spent so much time like this close to my computer trying to like get it perfect,
like moving it one pixel over.
And then it was all for naught because I literally had to do it again after that. So like probably just like things like that. Don't pay attention to those small details because as much. Like obviously you need to know what those small details are so your reader doesn't know what they are. But most of the time your reader's not gonna know what those things are anyway. So do what you can to do your best, but don't go crazy on the small stuff.
That's good advice. I did some graphic design work, and I remember kerning for like one word in a logo, just figuring out the kerning and the spacing of the letters, and like, whew, yeah. You could get caught in the pixels of things sometimes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, caught.
Number 5 is a question to a future you.
Ooh. Okay. Question to a future me. I wonder if I'm going to write another graphic novel ever. I mean, obviously I want Gyro to be ongoing, and I have it more or less mapped out to like 30 issues for the main story, though I could write 1 billion of those side issues just in the universe, because I mean them aliens aren't going anywhere. But I've thought about it myself. I have no interest in writing any other comic book outside of Gyro. I want to write a novel. I really do. Eventually, I think I was trying to write a novel first, like I said before. It just happened to be this, and I love this. I'm loving it every day. Obviously I'm working hard to get as many out as I can. But outside of this issue, I really have no intention of doing more. It's just a lot, because you got to work with so many different people. Not that that's different than any other things, but I feel like if I just was writing a novel, you have an editor and maybe like a publisher or something. But I don't have to rely on conveying what I need to get to the page on somebody else. It's all on me. And maybe it's like a selfish thing. Like I love working with people, but you know, like it's way easier to just do things on your own. And it's not to say like if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. That's not what I'm saying. But it is way easier to not have to rely on anybody than to just do it yourself. So I'd be curious if I ever do another one. I mean, there's a contest for like Top Cow to write to write something for their issues, and they'll choose you and hopefully publish you if you do it right, which I might partake in just for the sake of doing it. But I got no interest to actually write any other types of comics. Like where I know a lot of other creators that I like are doing multiple different types of comics.
Multiple universes, stories.
Yeah, I'm just trying to do this one. So cool. Maybe one day.
So the question is, did you do something other than Gyro?
Yeah, I do another comic other than Gyro.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's 5 quick questions, my friend.
Sweet. I think I kept it to medium or short answers there.
That was, I think the average was short to medium. So
it sure was.
And I extended some of them too. Yeah, thanks for joining me again. It's like I'm really enjoying having you on, and I've had a handful of others on for follow-up episodes, 6, 8, 12 months later, and it's just nice to like build some familiarity with people and get past the awkward ice. No, it wasn't awkward ice breaking in the first episode, but you build
for sure,
a relationship and some understanding and a little bit more fluid conversation. So I had a lot of fun.
Cool.
And where can people find you, and when's your Kickstarter going on?
March 8th, tentatively, depending on how my surgery goes. It should start then. I'm not trying to delay it, because delaying that Kickstarter delays the next Kickstarter, and I ain't trying to do that. So March 8th. No snowballing. Issue 3 should be out on Kickstarter. You can find me at the Gyro Universe on Instagram. You can find me on the other socials too, but the Instagram is where the Instagram, like I'm some sort of boomer. That's where you can find me. That's where I keep most of the stuff on there. And through the link in my bio on there is where you can read issue 1 for free. If you sign up for my mailing list, you can read the first 2 for free. They're both on Global Comics. My mailing list is random, in style and type and everything else and content, but it's consistent in enthusiasm. So definitely check that out if you're looking for just a quick read every second Tuesday of the month. And that's about it. But issue 3 should be great. Super excited about it. I work with a couple great artists. I got an awesome map in there now too.
I love the map. Yeah, you get the sense of you start getting greater depth of immersion. Just trying to find the right words. Greater depth of immersion. And I also recommend that people look up the Gyro Universe, or they can search your name on Spotify, and as they read the comics, they can listen to the accompanying soundtrack, which is really fun. And yeah, like I said, it gives even further depth of immersion.
Please, check that out too. That's also in the link in my bios. So that's all out there. Most of the stuff out there is free to read. The only thing that's not free is whatever the next issue is going to be, because I'm not trying to put paywalls behind my series. I'm just trying to help get the next issue out. So I want everybody to, if I want somebody to read issue 3 so I can get issue 4 out, you can read issues 1 and 2 for free. They're just gonna go through my bio. It's basically it.
Awesome. Go get them, people. And Al, until next time, enjoy the random.
My fellow randoms and soon to be fellow randoms, if this is maybe your first episode that you're hearing here, I hope you enjoyed this, the 43rd episode with Alec Sorbello, and our discussion about the Gyro Universe and the universe in general. We covered a lot of topics, and I don't have much else to say besides that. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Reach out to us anywhere that you can imagine on the interwebs at What's Your Random. Let us know what you think, and we look forward to hearing about your creative process and projects, and wishing you very much success moving into the spring, moving into the spring. We might jump ahead. You know, winter is long and spring is short, and it's heating up quickly here in the US. Whatever it is that you're doing, I'm just rambling at this point. Whatever it is that you're doing, I hope you enjoy it. And until next time, enjoy the random.